Gamers, I am back from my secret overseas trip. Just briefly, I've seen a few comments suggesting that me referencing my travel is a sort of flex or humble brag. I can assure you that is definitely not the case. The problem is that Australia is at the arse end of the earth, and everything interesting in the video games industry happens in places that are between 15 and 24 hours away on a plane. That is one way, mind you. So when I shout out my travel, it's only to let you know that you should expect less content from me than usual. What is an overnight trip for my American or European friends is like a 6-day odyssey for me, not including the jet lag. So I'm just trying to keep you guys in the loop is all. Anyway, I'll be able to share the outputs of that most recent trip next week, but for now, how about we talk about some gaming news? It's earnings call season right now, and one of the most interesting sets of results was Sony's, in large part because it showcases that the PlayStation business is evolving. Case in point, their biggest success this year has been a PC release. Helldivers 2 was sold through an absolutely absurd 12 million units in 12 weeks, largely due to its success on PC. Said Sony, quote, "The game has become our biggest PC hit title to date, and as a multi-platform title, it has also contributed significantly to sales and profit last quarter," end quote. It's no secret that Sony has plans to invest further into live services, and for the PC to be a central pillar in that strategy. It provided an update on the strategy during the same earnings call, quote, "Following this success, we are looking forward to the release of live service games such as the expansion content for Destiny 2 The Final Shape, which is expected to be released by Bungie on June 4th, and Concord, which is scheduled to be released this year by Firewalk Studios, which we acquired in 2023, end quote. If you're wondering what Concord is, by the way, you are not alone. Other than a brief teaser trailer from a little while ago, we still have no idea what that is, so do expect to see more info about it at the next Sony State of Play, rumored to be dropping pretty soon. The other trend we're seeing is a shift in PS5 console sales. Sony says they've shipped 59.3 million units, with 20.8 million of those being in the last 12 months alone. That is short of projections though, as Sony had hoped to sell 25 million units, but this overall sales figure does put the PS5 performance at about the same spot that the PS4 was this far into its life cycle. However, Sony is projecting lower sales for the coming year due to fewer big game releases shifting console units. Sony says they now believe the PS5 sales have peaked and will decline year on year from here on out, which obviously would naturally lead into the release of a Pro model, but it's hard to gauge demand for that without having more insight into the upcoming PS5 exclusive software library. Right now, a PS5 Pro is a really tough sell, but if you add in 4 to 5 truly top-tier Sony exclusives that play better on that new Pro console, the conversation starts to shift a little. Do Sony have those 4 to 5 titles in the works right now though? I mean, yeah, but when they'll arrive is a complete mystery. And that is a very central challenge for Sony, and I'll tell you why. Here's a graph from a Twitter user, Pierre485, who regularly covers video game sales data. On the left is sales for Nintendo versus sales for Sony. On the right is profit. Sony's sales are 2.5 times larger than Nintendo's, but their profit is just over half of Nintendo's. The moral of the story? Making Sony games in big LA-based studios staffed by hundreds of people is expensive, and PlayStation's profit margins have shrunk to their lowest levels ever as games take more time and more money to make. And Sony is not Microsoft. They do not have an infinite money glitch in the form of Windows or Office or Microsoft Teams. If PlayStation doesn't succeed, then Sony is in some serious trouble, so these cost pressures are existential for Sony in a way that they just aren't for Microsoft or Nintendo. Also of note, 77% of Sony game sales are now digital, that trend only accelerating over time as more and more retailers step back from box sales. It is very likely that this will be the last console generation where physical media is still an expectation. Xbox are already leading the way on this front, making a number of their first-party releases like living in LA and also cost saving to Sony, there's every chance that PlayStation will follow suit. Speaking of Xbox, here's a really interesting fact to spill out of this earnings call. Games industry analyst Daniel Lamart is reporting that in the last quarter, according to his data, PS5 outsold Xbox Series consoles 5-1. 5-1. I mean, if accurate, that is a staggering figure, but not at all a surprising one. This past quarter was when Microsoft revealed their plans to go multi-platform. Before this time, if someone were to ask me, hey man, should I buy an Xbox or a PlayStation? I'd be like, well, there's some pros and cons, yada yada yada. But now I just be like, nah man, get a PlayStation. You're gonna get all the Xbox games on there eventually anyway, and we could all sense that even though Microsoft are still unwilling to admit it. Game Pass is obviously a compelling value proposition, but the third-party offering is always unpredictable, and its first-party offerings pale in comparison to what Sony are putting out. So yeah, obviously the PS5 is the right call. And that is why when Microsoft gestured towards this multi-platform future, I immediately thought that it was just over for Xbox hardware. There's still going to be an Xbox, sure, in the same way that there's like a Microsoft Surface, but do you need to buy it now? No, you need to buy a Switch, a PC, and a PlayStation, and then you're covered. Xbox consoles simply don't make sense given Microsoft's new strategy. Speaking of which, Microsoft insider Jez Corden of Windows Central is reporting that which we all knew to be true. Microsoft are planning to release other first-party games on competing hardware. He says that internally the multi-platform effort has a project name, that being Latitude, and he says, quote, "From what I've heard, Microsoft is pushing for no red line for what games could come to PlayStation, and it all revolves around Satya Nadella and CFO Amy Hood's mandate to increase every department's margins," end quote. If this reporting is accurate, then it confirms a lot of what we had assumed. Once the multi-platform door is open, you can't shut it behind you, and we did suspect that this was a push from Microsoft's top brass rather than from Xbox's leadership team, since the significance of the core brand is severely diminished when it's no longer associated with exclusive content. Interestingly, the Wall Street Journal are reporting that the next Call of Duty game will come to Game Pass, and yeah, that's very surprising to be honest. I can't see the commercial logic in it, but I'm sure the eggheads crunching the math know a lot more than I do.
I always play Call of Duty when I need to go
games arriving on Game Pass, sure. But to give up all that upfront COD revenue in exchange for the hope of long-term Game Pass growth, that would be a risky play, and I'd be genuinely interested to see how that one shakes out. Hey, here's something I didn't expect to be saying this week after Xbox just closed 3.5 studios, including Arcane Austin and Tango Gameworks. Microsoft are opening a new studio. For real, this is not a joke. This week, Microsoft's subsidiary Activision, God, that sounds so weird, they announced that they're opening a new studio in Poland to work on, quote, a narrative-based and genre-defining AAA franchise, end quote. The studio is called Elsewhere Entertainment, and it's comprised of vets from Naughty Dog, CD Projekt Red,
in
Ubisoft,
Tamriel, Elsewhere.
Poland is an increasingly vibrant game dev hub, with a large pool of upcoming and veteran talent to draw from, plus Polish wages are substantially cheaper than American or Japanese wages, making that location particularly attractive to publishers looking for some of that sweet, sweet wage arbitrage. That concoction of talent and cost effectiveness was no doubt what drew Baldur's Gate 3 developer Larian.
Imagine if you're Polish and like an American company comes up and makes a studio in your country called Elsewhere, Elsewhere Studios. Like, wait, but this is Poland. It's not just Elsewhere.
Studios to Poland as well, because yes, they too just this very week announced that they are opening a new studio in Poland. Said Larian in a statement, quote, "Like its sister studios
American
across the globe,
executive
Warsaw is dedicated
somewhere
to
is like,
fostering an
oh
environment
yeah,
where
we'll just name the
developers can
studio
thrive
Elsewhere,
creatively
because
and
I've never been to
agency,
Poland.
end quote.
Have you ever been to
All that
Poland?
studio
I've
weight
never
behind
been
the
to
2 new
Poland.
projects they're
It's
working
clearly
on,
some
neither
made-up
of which is
fantasy
Baldur's Gate
land.
4. Very sad times. Some more financial news now, this time out of Ubisoft, who have had themselves a surprisingly successful year, despite the fact that they didn't really release all that much, and a lot of what they did release wasn't that successful. Net bookings rose 33.5% this year to over 2.3 billion euros. Much of that success attributed to back catalogue as well as their perennial live service workhorse, Rainbow Six Siege. The other way that Ubisoft has increased profits is through cost cutting, though they have done it differently from other publishers. They have done some layoffs, but on a much smaller scale than we've seen across the rest of the industry. Instead, Ubisoft has been capping headcount since about 2022, and since that time, overall headcount has declined by roughly 1,700 people. This, combined with other cost-cutting initiatives, saw Ubisoft's cost base shrink by over 150 million euros in the past 12 months alone, putting Ubi on a path to their highest net bookings ever reported this year. And that was a year where their biggest release was Skull and Bones, no joke. Ubi are now looking down the barrel of a big year featuring Star Wars Outlaws and a new mainline Assassin's Creed game, so there's every chance that next year's earnings call will be a red letter day for Ubisoft shareholders. There was one casualty to emerge from this earnings call, however, and that was the Division Heartland. Remember how a few weeks ago I was like, what the fuck is going on with that game? Give us an update, Ubisoft. Well, they did, and it's not good. The game has now been cancelled. As a bit of a refresher, Heartland was basically like free-to-play survival from the Division 1, which was a battle royale extraction game before any of those words were cool. No joke, survival predated PUBG and certainly predated Tarkov by many years. Ubisoft did not know what they had on their hands and squandered that game mode, locking it behind a DLC paywall for a premium looter shooter. Back then, I literally told Massive, I'm like, please, for the love of God, spin this out and make it free. Alas, they didn't, and Heartland was meant to be a chance for Ubisoft to get back on the trolley with this style of game. Despite being very far along in development and with a number of large-scale playtests behind it, the game now joins the ranks of Ghost Recon Frontline, competitive live service experiences cancelled 6 feet from the finish line. It is unclear what developer Redstorm are working on next, but it's likely they'll return to their status as a support studio, which is sad because this was their shot at taking the lead on something for the first time in a long time, and it didn't go their way. And finally, details are starting to leak about the next game Valve are planning to release. This info comes from a variety
Oh,
of
it's a
sources,
Half-Life
including
3?
Eurogamer and Tyler McVicker. They say that Valve's next game is called Deadlock, and it's a 6v6 competitive MOBA-style hero shooter with tower
Unfortunate.
defense elements. It's had
Not
various names
interested
in the
anymore.
past, including Neon Prime and Citadel, and it's been in development since around 2018. Apparently, it's the brainchild of Dota creator
Hazy,
IceFrog,
how's it going?
and it's recently had a closed alpha, which is where these leaks have sprung from. Visually, it's meant to have a European steampunk vibe, not totally dissimilar to something like Half-Life 2 or Dishonored. As word has spilled out, people have been like, oh look, Valve is copying Overwatch, and Team Fortress fans are like, are you for real right now? Either way, it is pretty exciting. Not every Valve game is a banger, looking at you, Artifact, but most of them are, as Valve continues its very unique and focused approach to product and game design, moving at a pace that pleases them and them alone, allowing them to prioritize quality and polish over shareholder value, which is easy to do when you don't have any shareholders, except for Gaben. God bless him.
What?
A quick lightning round to finish off. We may not be getting a Fallout 5
keyboard's a
anytime
little
soon,
bit
but
too
you know what
close
we
to my
are
heart.
getting? Fallout in Fortnite. Yay. Do you reckon it'll have all the bugs? I'm not talking about rad roaches, by the way. The details for the crossover aren't yet
You
clear,
keep
but we can
hitting
certainly
the
expect some
escape
skins,
button
and
or
I'd wager
something,
a
or like
location or two
the
based on
tab
the
button?
classic Bethesda franchise or the
And
TV
that, like,
show
alt
that
tabs
breathes new
me
life
over
back into it. That'll drop next week when
open it.
Chapter 5 Season 3 launches. Speaking of Fortnite, Epic are in some hot water with the Dutch. They were fined over 1 million euros by the consumer rights regulatory body
No
for
one
taking
expects
advantage of
the
kids.
Dutchie.
Thankfully, not in any sort of Catholic church way, just more about advertising to them when they shouldn't be. Quote, ACM found that children that played the game could experience pressure in several ways to make purchases. For example, by using ads which directly exhort children to make purchases, and by using misleading countdown timers for items on offer.
Extortion.
End quote. The Netherlands out here discovering cash shop FOMO for the first time, and they will not stand for it. This is the country that was among the first to enact meaningful loot box legislation for any game not rated for adults. So this is actually very on brand for them. Gotta say, really respect any government willing to take a look at this stuff and take action, since most of them just throw their hands up in confusion and
Wait,
end
is
up
this
accidentally
EA or
banning TikTok.
Ubisoft
Square Enix
extorting
is still trying to keep
kids?
Foam Stars alive, though to no one's surprise, a recent Square Enix
Is it
earnings
both?
call suggests the title
probably both.
underperformed versus expectations. To help get things back on track, Square are halving most of the in-game spending costs, an unusual move in this space since the prices usually go the other direction. Either way, I don't see much of a future for this game unless it gets ported to PC and or Switch with full crossplay enabled. We'll see how long that PlayStation exclusive contract has left on it, I suppose. There's something weird going on over at EA when it comes to Immortals of Avium. So the game is just about to hit Xbox Game Pass and EA Play's basic tier. To celebrate, Ascender Studios put out a blog post revealing two interesting tidbits. Number one, the game has been played by over 1.3 million people at this point, not bad. Number two, EA seems to have struck a deal with Ascendant to provide 100% of sale revenue directly to the studio, bypassing the publisher cut for the foreseeable future. That's pretty cool, and may help keep Ascendant Studios on their feet as rumors of studio closures loom. Here's what's weird though, after that blog post went out, the mention of 1.3 million players was removed, as was the mention of revenue going directly to the studio. Not sure what's up with that. We've reached out to both EA and Ascendant Studios for comment, and we'll report back if we hear anything. Are we getting a new mainline Nier game? Question mark. That's the question on every weeb's lips this week after Nier producer Yosuke Saito announced he was teaming up with Nier
Ubisoft
creator
had a
Yoko Taro
studio
and
in
Nier
Morocco, but
composer
it's close to
Keiichi Okabe
2020,
for a new project.
2014.
Quote, I've been talking about wanting to do something with Yoko and Okabe for some time now. I'll have something a bit more put together to say in the not too distant future, so please stay tuned. It might be Nier, it might not be. Laughs, end quote. Thanks, man. That laugh really filled us with a lot of confidence. Appreciate that. The labors of Tango Gameworks are now complete, with the studio releasing their final update to Hi-Fi Rush this week. Tango released patch notes for the update, but
Where was that when I was
minor
10
changes and bug
years old?
fixes. They also reiterated that a physical version of the game is still on the way from limited run
I
games.
feel your
and it
pain.
truly is a testament to how far things have regressed when
Like,
Tango needs
I
to
grew
work
up
with a
thinking I'd be
third-party
like, oh
provider
yeah, you
to
know
get
what, it'd be
physical
cool to
distance
work
to
at
consumers'
Blizzard.
hands, instead of working with the
Guess where
trillion-dollar
that ended up.
corporation that owns them and runs a major video game
Nowhere
platform.
good.
Or at least it was a major platform, who's to say at the moment. Meanwhile, Arcane is still working to ship the final update to Redfall that will bring, among other things, single-player pausing. FromSoft, take note. The man behind the XCOM revival, Jake Solomon, left Firaxis 14 months ago to start a new studio, and now we know
Really,
it
the
is.
only thing
Midsummer
that
Studios
you can
is a new
rely on
outfit
is
with about
yourself.
$6 million in equity fundraising behind them.
So,
They're making a new live sim game
if
that's
you- if
looking
you
to go
wanna do
head-to-head with
3D
like
stuff,
The Sims, which is actually a
you
pretty
just
smart
gotta
idea
go and
since
do
that
it.
genre definitely
You
needs
can't have other
competition.
people tell you
Given
what
how
to
new
do.
the studio is, I wouldn't expect to see a reveal for this first game anytime this year, but a 2025 reveal and maybe a 26 early access launch seems like a reasonable timeline.
can't
Amazon
rely
have revealed their
on
upcoming slate of programming.
your
Yes, they
peers
are
or your-
doing that live-action
your
Nick Cage
heroes.
Spider-Man noir series, and yes, we will
The only
all be
one that
watching.
you can
On
rely
the
on
video
is
game front,
yourself.
they've greenlit a new Tomb Raider TV series, And I still cannot believe that that franchise is still getting new anything. I feel like it hasn't been relevant in over a decade. More interestingly, Amazon have also commissioned a 4-part documentary about the Madden NFL video game. And yeah, I don't even like that game, but I would still watch that. That actually sounds kind of interesting. Some sales and player count numbers for you. The Monster Hunter series just topped over 100 million unit sales, with 25 million of those being Monster Hunter World alone.
When is the new one coming out again?
How massively successful that release was,
Soonish,
and
right?
how
Like
eager
next
fans
year?
were to get a version of the game not restrained by handheld hardware. The solo-made
Hope
Manor Lords has now
comes
sold
out.
through 2 million copies in less than 3 weeks. A
Was that
reminder that
too
smaller games
much?
aren't just for awards and prestige, despite what
Crazy
some
early
executives may
access
tell you.
stuff.
Speaking of smaller indie titles, Grand Theft Auto 5 has just passed
The launch
200
is
million
already.
units sold, continuing its streak as the single most profitable piece of entertainment media in the history of our species. A reminder that publisher Take-Two Interactive shuttered 2 independent game studios this past fortnight. I do expect that some of that GTA money could have gone towards keeping those studios afloat, especially Roll7, which deserved far better. Speaking of layoffs, there were more this week since it's 2024, and that's just how it goes. An unknown number of Square Enix staff were just let go after the announcement of Square's organizational and strategic realignment was announced. The roles seem to be in the area of publishing, IT, and Square's indie label called The Collective. Square did highlight that further cuts are likely in the future. Palia developers
He's gonna be saying it's gonna
laid
be
off roughly
2025,
40% of
and
their staff,
that's just what
36 people
happens.
this week.
Everyone
It
gets
comes
laid
after
off in
having already laid
2025.
off 49 people back in April and an undisclosed number of people back in September of last
I hope
year.
they open the branch
Palia launched
again.
to a middling reception in March of this year, and with the scale of
Raqqa.
cutbacks here, I do worry for the future
Yeah,
of that
that'd be-
game and the
that'd be
studio
nice.
managing it. The biggest set of layoffs this week was from Phoenix Labs, makers of the Monster Hunter-like Dauntless, as well as Fae Farm. 2 sources say that over 100 people were let go and that future game projects were cancelled. The studio says
I
the
mean, if you
reductions
want to
allow
work at
them to
Ubisoft.
continue
I heard
focusing
Ubisoft
on
sucks,
Dauntless
though.
and Fae Farm.
Like
And that's all
it's
there really is to say
really
about that,
poorly
hoping those 100 people
mismanaged.
land on their feet quickly. Finally, one last bit of news to finish. 2K
And, like,
Games
there's
are
a lot of
teasing something big
ego
at the upcoming Summer
in
Games Fest in
Ubisoft.
June. Quote, 2K plans to reveal
A
the
lot of
next
people with,
iteration
like,
in one of
their
2K's
asses stuck
biggest
up
and
their
most
heads,
beloved
apparently.
franchises, end quote. This could be the next
According-
Bioshock game, maybe, but if I was to guess, it's
so I've
probably
heard from, like, some
Borderlands
people,
4,
you know.
since it feels like the right time for a reveal of that one. Will we see Randy Pitchford up on stage pulling a new game reveal out of his hat? God, I hope not. Just let someone else do the reveal and leave Randy at home, or on that movie set hanging out with Kevin Hart. He looked so happy there. Randy, that is. Kevin,
A lot of
so what
French
got announced or delayed
arrogance.
this week? Biggest reveal of the
at
week was
Ubisoft.
Assassin's Creed Shadows, the AC in Japan that we've all been begging for since AC positioned itself as a time-hopping adventure. Ghost of Tsushima did kind of come along and eat its lunch since it was effectively AC in Japan in all but name, and a damn fine rendition of it as well.
Did I see the new
To keep things
trailer of
fresh,
Elden
Ubisoft
Ring?
are
I
changing up
have.
the main characters formula. There's 2 of them
I'm
this
so
time,
hyped.
each one representing the
DLC
different fighting
hyped.
styles that have come to define the AC franchise. and
Is
its
everyone
integration.
prepared
Malway
for
is a
the
female
DLC?
shinobi who looks to deliver on that stealthy,
You have your
hidden blade style of
characters at
combat, while the male
level
Yasuke is meant to
125 or
deliver on the samurai
138.
fantasy. Of course, Yasuke is not the sort of character you'd
150.
expect to see fronting a samurai
You
game,
have
given
all
that
your
he is
weapons
African.
at
But he's
plus
actually a
10,
real
plus
historical
25.
figure who served under Daimyo Oda
All the
Nobunaga in the
consumables,
16th century. He
smithing
was a slave
smithing
and the
stones,
first
right?
black man that Nobunaga had ever seen.
Boluses.
So Nobunaga demanded him from his owner and then employed him as a personal attendant.
I'm not
Yasuke is
ready.
also said to
I'm
have
not ready
briefly
for the
fought on
DLC.
Nobunaga's behalf
Look
during
at my
an
HP.
unsuccessful
I have
coup
10
defense.
vigor.
Since then, a
Can't
variety
believe
of
that.
books, movies,
10
and TV
vigor.
shows have taken creative license with his depiction. Hell, Yosuke even appeared as a character in the original Neo when it released back in 2017. But this does appear to be the first time that he's
I'm
been made
so not
playable
ready
in a
for the
video
DLC.
game. For me personally, when it comes to an AC game, I'm thinking about 3 things. Number 1, is the writing good? Because Ubisoft
I'm gonna go into
really
the
struggles in
DLC
this
at level
department.
90
2, how
because
bad
right
is the
now,
in-game spending?
level
Previous
90
AC
is
games
really
took
good
the piss.
for co-op and PvP. It's just low enough where you aren't being grouped up with like meta end game people, and like just high enough to where you can actually kind of finalize a build if you're good at build making. Hey! Lake of Rot. Oh god.
Hey!
They know this is my favorite place. It's crazy. Hey, it's old friend. I think I've partied with this person before. I feel like that's like a familiar name. Ouch, ouch. Spicy water. Let me go prepared with my Icon shield. Maybe fat rolling, but that's fine. All good. My Knight comment does 2,000 damage charged. It's a little bit crazy, just a little bit. Are we gonna kill the boss here, or which one we're going for? Balls. Oh, that's because I don't have my other. That would have been one shot, but I have the shield out, so no one shot. There we go, one shot. Oh! We want your live reaction to the trailer. I streamed it actually. I think the most I said during the trailer was I said is that a vagina? That's my reaction to the trailer. Is that a vagina? Oh my god, am I gonna die? I feel like I'm gonna die. This is not good. I gotta chug these, and even still I might die. Oh my god. This character does not have enough health to survive. Oh my god, are you kidding me? Oh my god. I have to like eat these every 2 seconds. Thank god I know a good friend that knows how to like farm these really effectively. And he just like gives me full stacks of garlic rot boluses every single time I log in. It's just like right there, waiting for me. Wait, where is he going? Better not want to explore the entire lake of rot. I don't have enough rot boluses for that. Wait, does he want to go up and then? You kidding me? We were right there. Oh my god, this guy. Can we snipe him from here? Like, can I wake up the boss by like shooting it? Do I have poison arrows? Maybe bleed arrows would work. Like, once the bleed procs, it should wake up, right? I can't even shoot that far, never mind. Never mind. I hate this place. This place is amazing. Like, you come up here, the invader comes around, right? And the invader spawns in the rot so you can tell where they are. And then you like snipe them from up here. If someone invades, it's likely I'll be up here when they invade. Okay, quick shot this one. Oh. Whoops. Okay. I was gonna buff some more, but felt good. Follow the host. That is the name of the game. Where is it? Wait, who is the real host? Oh yeah, okay, here is the real host. Yeah, piece of the compass. The gold circle is the real host. Like, if old friend was the real host, I'm like, why am I following the phantom around? Yeah, for this place you definitely need Flame Cleanse Me if you don't have a friend that can just like farm. That's all they do. They just spend their entire life farming rot boluses. If you don't have one of those friends, no lifers who just love farming, yeah, you're gonna need Flame Cleanse Me. What are you most excited for in the DLC, Z? At first, I was most excited for the armor, but I can't like having seen like a lot of the armors. I kind of feel like while they do look cool, I feel like some of the excitement has faded, unfortunately. Oh my God, Akira's dead. Why? Why did you jump down? Whee! Well, shit happens. That's what happens. We'll go back to skill up.
That stuff. And 3, will this game be another 200-hour bloatfest like Valhalla was? Because if it is, you can count me out right now. AC Shadows launches for all platforms on November 15th, and we can expect to see a lot more about it at the
When
Ubisoft.
does Shadow of the Tree come out again? Shadow of the Tree trailer. I should say in the trailer. Uh, 21st of June. So, dude, that's like next. That's literally like next month. We have like 30 days to go. Yeah, 28 days. 28 days later. Boss fights? Yeah, the boss fights are gonna be insane. I can already tell like uh Mesmer is gonna be a absolute bitch to fight. I can already tell. Like I'm pretty sure like FromSoft has probably like learned from like the Melina fight. Like I feel like Melina also had a bit of an impaling attack to her, right? She's almost sort of like an impaler herself. I think FromSoft has learned that they can make the game harder if they wanted to. Like with summons and stuff in like Spirit Ashes. Melina isn't actually that hard. Uh, Especially after you learn how to dodge waterfowl. I feel like Mesmer is gonna be a challenge. I wonder what his snakes are gonna do in the fight, right? Like Mesmer, he has his spear, but he also has like 2 snakes. Or I think it's 1 snake, but it's like two-headed. It's like a 2-headed snake, right? I wonder what that's gonna do in the fight. Like, is that going to be part of his second phase? Do you guys think Mesmer is gonna have a second phase? Because I think he's definitely gonna have a second phase, and like, or maybe even a third phase. No, not third phase. Definitely a second phase though. And like the snakes are gonna have to have something to do with it. Kind of like I can imagine it being kind of like Redcard's fight. What else do I need to do with this character? Like, I guess I can go collect and farm some more armor, just so I have all the armor pieces. So I can mix and match the new armor with the old armor. I need like a checklist. I need a checklist for Elden Ring. I think a couple of them exist, but I've never actually gone and like seriously looked for checklists. Yeah, like the armors. I think another thing that a lot of people haven't been talking about, but we're gonna need more stone sword keys. Right? Like just think about it. You're in the DLC, you're running along like uh you're running along in a dungeon, one of the new dungeons, and come across a door and you're like, oh no, I don't have any more swordstone keys. Definitely I need some of those. Have I played Sekiro? I haven't.
Hey,
I haven't played Sekiro because there isn't multiplayer for Sekiro, and that's one of the biggest draws for me for FromSoft games. They have to have like multiplayer. Otherwise, it's just like a really difficult game, and with difficult games, you need to be able to show off that you've beaten things. Otherwise, like, where's the fun in? Well, I guess it's still fun. Like, beating difficult things is inherently fun on its own. Just like exercising your skills and like knowing you've defeated the boss, but I would say it's equally or even more fun to show off that you have beaten bosses. Like you've gone through the content, you've done what other people have done, or more. So yeah, I think it's really important for FromSoft games to have that. Wait, get to my question yet. I think it's too far away. I think, right? Fucking hell. I'm gonna lose some buffs soon. This boss is just so far away. There we go. Oh my god. It's a bit quick, but did you see that damage, guys? I nearly one-shot him. I wasn't expecting that really fast sword thrust. Usually they're a bit slower than that. A little. Yeah, I've been loving this build. This build is so fun. Just like doing so much damage, but also like dying in one hit. It's a lot of fun. I think it's also conducive to my art because like killing fast is good because I can switch over to ZBrush. Dying fast is also good because then I can also switch back over to ZBrush. So both are good for me. Either dying or like killing. And get more done in both worlds. The real one and the one fast in the shadow of the Erd Tree. It is really cool to see that there's like more than one of those massive fire giants. Kind of like those burning men. Massive burning constructs. I need to have shit like that in Project Nova for sure. Large constructs that are on fire. Maybe not on fire because then I don't want to copy Elden Ring, right? It's got to be my own game. But definitely like something really large and definitely very threatening, so that players will have to migrate around the map and avoid it, or team up and kill it if they can. Both are good for me, either dying or killing. Zethras, May 2024. But it's true, right? I get more shit done. Like, the more time I spend either getting stuff done in Elden Ring or returning to my world in Elden Ring, the more ZBrush I get done. Because then I like alt-tab over and it's more productive for me. I used to really like long co-ops where I get summoned into like Landel or what else is like a really long one? I think Landel's like the longest. I guess the sewers is kind of long. Not too long, it's shorter. Stormvale Castle is pretty long too, but I don't really co-op at that level. But yeah, I used to really like these long form co-ops, but then I realized I'm just kind of like doing the same shit over and over again. It's more fun to just pop in, help someone kill a boss, or like help someone defeat an invader, or just like get slaughtered by the invader, than it is just like run around and kill an entire dungeon for like 30 minutes. And you're like, oh my god, where did all that time go? Definitely didn't go into ZBrush or being productive. I think the only areas I don't like getting summoned into is like the Rykard fight. The Rykard fight, just because, like, if you don't have Black Flame, if you don't have Rot, and if you don't have like the Serpent Hunter, which you should have the Serpent Hunter if you go fight Rykard in co-op. If you don't have like one of those three, then you're kind of screwed. And if you want to like use your build, like if you're a mage, it's not gonna be very effective because Rykard just has so much HP. Even if you do like 2,000 damage per hit, it's still not enough. You gotta do like percent damage for Rykard. So it's like, oh man, I have to switch. I have to switch my weapons just for this one fight. I hope they don't do something like that for Shadow of the Earth Tree. That's that I probably don't mind if they do. By the way, I don't know if you guys have seen, but I can like change the color of like skins and stuff now, which is pretty cool. But yeah, like it's gonna need like some masking. So the skin changes are more accurate. You can't tint like all of the color, all of the skin like a certain color. You need areas where there's like more, for like darker skin people, you need like more, you need, there's areas with more melanin and areas with less melanin. You can't just like color the whole thing. Also, I don't know if Morrowind is the right game for this stream, like productivity wise. Like I went back and looked at like I was spending a lot of time playing Morrowind and not enough time like actually working. Morrowind is just one of those games I can just get sucked up by. It's not good. There's like no timer on the amount of time I'm in the world of Vardenfell. With Elden Ring, like Dark Souls co-op style, like you get sent home every time you die, or like every time the objective is complete. So there's always a start and finish to the play session, and usually it's pretty short, like under 10 minutes. So it's nice to start up Elden Ring, get a break here and there. Oh, this boss is so dead. Okay, we got that. Am I close enough? Let's see, I think I should be close enough. Maybe not. Where's Remy? I'm scared. He's usually... Ah, there he is. Oh, shit. Oh. Whoa. Fast. That's a fast weapon. See you later, Remy. Definitely gets the adrenaline going when like the invader is just like on you like that. But luckily the boss is at low enough HP. The invader got sent home. Oh, disconnected. That's good. I don't really want to do Fire Giant. Fire Giant is definitely a you have to dodge perfectly or you get sent back home kind of boss for my health.
Forward showcase scheduled for June 10th. Here's a funny one. Last week, Wayfinder's developer Airship Syndicate announced that Wayfinders was entering 1.0 on June 11th after a very, very rocky early access period. But there's a twist. So the early access period kind of bombed. The game was plagued with severe server issues that saw it largely unplayable for weeks. Soon after that, publisher Digital Extremes pulled the plug, not only on Wayfinders, but on their entire publishing operation. Airship Syndicate tried to secure additional funding for the game but were unsuccessful, leading them to make an unconventional choice. They're going to make it an offline, peer-to-peer enabled game, and they're removing all of the live service elements and in-game spending. They basically rebuilt the entire loot and progression economy in line with Wayfinders being a premium game. It's a pivot I've never actually seen before, I don't think, but as they say, necessity is the mother of invention, since it was either this or basically delist the game entirely. We actually sat down with the studio boss and creative director of Wayfinders on the podcast last week. Really fascinating chat about how this all went down and what it was like trying to make these tough choices. Really recommend checking that out if you're at all interested. I'll leave a link to that below the like button. The Toys for Bob co-founders are back at it after leaving the studio some time ago when it was purchased by Activision. They're now spinning up a new venture. Their first project is a spiritual sequel to the classic space shooter that they themselves released over 30 years ago, Star Control 2. This new entry is called Free Stars, Children of Infinity. I never actually played Star Control 2, but it's meant to be very influential, hence the enthusiastic Kickstarter response. With the project now funded, the real development
like that's
begins.
one of those boomer games that I've never played.
For quite some time. A peripheral announcement out of Xbox, or for Xbox I should say. Microsoft already makes the adaptive controller for accessibility purposes,
to make it popular
but now an outfit by the name of BioWave have made an all-new, very modular controller. It's basically little spheres that can click together in different configurations, plus it has this really sick design. Really nice to see this sort of stuff getting out there. That's available right now. And finally, a movie release date announcement. Mortal Kombat 2 launches on October 24th, and it will get an IMAX release. Sadly, I'm talking about the all-new Mortal Kombat 2 and not Mortal Kombat Annihilation, because believe you me, I would absolutely go and see that piece of shit movie in IMAX if I had the chance. People really like that most recent Mortal Kombat movie. Personally, I thought it was kind of just a bit watered down and boring, but then again, I unironically believe that the original Mortal Kombat movie was and still is the greatest video game adaptation of all time, and I will bicycle kick anyone who says otherwise. So what came out last week? Well, Ghost of Tsushima arrived on PC for anyone living in a country where you're actually allowed to create a PSN. Now, I actually didn't know that this one was Nixxes software, which is why I was wondering what shape it would be in when it arrived, but upon learning it was Nixxes, I was like, well, that's all you had to say. Sure enough, the game is launched 88% very positive on Steam, with people extremely impressed at performance, optimization, and even Steam Deck performance, which is a bit of a marvel given how great this game looks.
Are you allowed to have a PSN account in Malaysia?
Popular it's been, eclipsing God of War to become Sony's most successful single-player launch on PC, with a peak concurrent player count of over 77,000 people. It is a great result for a great game and a great port. High fives and firm handshakes all around for Sony. Except for the fact that they can't sell the game in nearly 200 countries and territories. Imagine what
people
those
have also
numbers would have
talked
been
about
like had
Alan Wake
Sony
a
got
lot,
their shit together.
but I haven't
I
played
guess
it.
we'll never know. We've been keeping one laser eye laser focused on Lorelei and the Laser Eyes ever since Sam Barlow put it on our radar. The game launched last week and the reviews are in. Barlow was not lying when he called it a Game of the Year contender. It's currently sitting at 97% very positive on Steam and a mighty 87 on OpenCritic. Critics across the board are gushing, like GameSpot, who scored it a 9 out of 10, saying, quote, Lorelei and the Laser Eyes is a massive achievement in using games as a medium and an art form to tell a story that can only be experienced in a video game. It can often feel like a harrowing maze built on riddles and deception, but through perseverance, you can find your way to the center of this labyrinth and a truth worth knowing, end quote. Our man Edmund also reviewed it. The write-up for that one is over on the Patreon, freely available to all. He loved it, going so far as to call it the best thing he's played this year. He put 30 hours into it before rolling credits, and now he just wishes that the memory of it could be expunged so he could go back and experience it all over again. It's a game where you actually have to use an IRL notebook, and Edmund says he took over 40 pages of notes, his scrawlings resembling that of a madman. It just sounds like a really, really special experience, one that I definitely plan to circle back to when the madness of June subsides. But if you'd like to check it out for yourself right now, then it's available on PC and Switch. Like I said, if you do want to read the full review write-up from Edmund, I'll leave a link to that below the like button. Mullet Mad Jack looked like a bit of a laugh and a spot of good fun, but it turns out it's actually also a very good video game. This is sitting at 98% overwhelmingly positive with over 1,500 reviews counted. It's an absolutely phenomenal result. Critics are also all about it, putting it at a mighty 87 on OpenCritic. Press Start scored it an 8.5, saying, quote, Mullet Mad Jack is a blistering, balls-to-the-wall throwback to 90s anime and violent, dystopian sci-fi that marries boomer shooters with speedrunning and roguelike aspirations to form an absolutely intoxicating brew, end quote. The one is available exclusive to PC right now. Another PC exclusive is Dread Delusion, the Morrowind-esque first-person RPG I profiled a few weeks ago in the Put This On Your Radar segment. Still awaiting user scores to roll in as the launch is fresh, but some critics did get their hands on it ahead of the 1.0 launch, and they liked it. But it is some distance from the works that inspired it. PC Gamer scored it a 73, saying, quote, reverberating with a melancholy vibe, populated with memorable multi-layered characters, and rife with intrigue, Dread Delusion remains one of the most fascinating open-world settings I have visited in a while, even if, much like the unwieldy airship, it has trouble sticking the landing, end quote. I guess you could say the same thing about Morrowind actually, so maybe this is totally nailing the source material. Paper Trail is that delightful looking indie title where you have to fold paper to create new pathways. Still waiting on user scores for this one to come in, but critics love it, putting it at an 85 on OpenCritic. The gamer had a nice write-up scoring at 4 out of 5 and saying, quote, Paper Trail is a beautifully crafted adventure that utilizes origami techniques to create a unique puzzle game with cozy vibes, stunning illustrations, and a captivating storyline. It had my attention from the first fold to the final destination, and the journey was beautiful, end quote. Biggest release of the week was Senua's Saga Hellblade 2, and this one has proven to be a hell of a lot more divisive than the last. In aggregate though, it's definitely a good news story. It's sitting at a mighty 82 on OpenCritic, which is roughly the same score the first game got. That is a great result, no doubt about that. What's interesting though is how many outlier review scores are in the mix. There are plenty of 9s or perfect scores like Eurogamers, who scored it 5 stars and said, quote, Hellblade 2 continues Senua's story with grace, confidence, prizing brutality, and thunder and conviction, end quote. Or GamesRadar, who also scored it a perfect 5 and said, quote, a masterclass in technical and thematic maturity, end quote. But then you've got outlets like PC Gamer, who scored it a 58 and said, quote, despite its greater scale and visual splendor, this sequel fails to escape the shadow of its predecessor with a muddled tale that Senua herself feels out of place in, end quote. Or GameSpot, who scored it a 6, saying, quote, Hellblade 2 is perhaps the most visually remarkable Xbox title to date, but is ultimately undermined by its emphasis on fidelity over story and gameplay, end quote. Regardless, the net result is a positive one for Ninja Theory, and it seems to be enough to keep the wind in their sails, as Jez Corden of Windows Central is reporting that the studio's next game has already been greenlit, meaning that contrary to recent chatter and concerns, the studio will live to fight.
Well, let's go see how much damage
that last week was
Night
for
Comet
X Defiant, but given that it dropped yesterday, free to play for PC, Xbox, and PlayStation,
Can I just use
we'll
Night
check back
Comet
in on the reviews next
this
week.
fight?
So what's coming out this week? Well, a collection of smaller titles this week actually, and kicking things off is Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door. Sure, it was big back in the day, but it's a little more niche now, and it's re-released in remastered form. The work Nintendo's done to it is looking wonderful, and best of all, it'll be playable on Switch, meaning you'll no longer need to pay $400 for a GameCube copy on eBay, because as we all know, buying old copies of Nintendo games is the only way to play them. At least that is what I am reliably informed by Nintendo's work. Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door drops tomorrow.
That's
Wizardry, Proving Grounds of the Mad Overlord, has been in early access since September of last year, and now it's back to 1.0. Tomorrow it'll be available exclusively for PC. It's a full remake built on top of
That was dead.
Code, meaning you can switch
Oh,
between the
that's not
graphics
too bad actually.
which is always a nice Duck Detective: The Secret Salami is obviously taking itself pretty seriously.
Probably not
It's a
locked on.
game where you play as a
Get
cute
the body
duck and you
alliance
need to
here.
solve a mystery inspired by the return of the Obra Dinn and the Chase of Golden Idol. Stu and Edmund both played this during the recent Steam Expo and they loved it. It's arriving exclusive to PC.
Alright, I guess.
GK is an exceptionally stylish Jet Set Radio inspired action game that focuses on movement,
Thank God
colour,
I don't have to do that
graffiti,
fight.
hence the Jet Set Radio comparisons. This one
I'm
was
so
revealed
glad it
a
got
short
sent
time
back.
ago, and now this week it's arriving exclusive to PC. It's being published by Gearbox actually, so he's hoping it gets a console release as well in the future. This one's actually looking really nice. 33 Immortals is one I remember seeing a while back. It's a top-down roguelike with a twist. The twist being that you can play alongside up to 32 other players. Not sure how that would work actually. I suspect it would end up being a bit of a clusterfuck. But if you're interested to check it out for yourself, this one's launching for PC and Xbox on the 24th. Personally, the release I'm most excited for this week is the Rogue Prince of Persia, which launches exclusive to PC on the 27th since it's an early access launch. Other platforms will follow after that. It's the second Prince of Persia game we're getting inside of 5 months after going like 10 years
Wow.
and getting none. The most recent Lost Crown was a Metroidvania, but this is actually a roguelike, hence the title, and it's made by Evil Empire, the studio who are handling the long-tail support for Dead Cells, while Motion Twin worked on their next thing. Great studio to have on a release like this, really like the art style and the coloring on display, and personally, I'm always just a big fan of big publishers directing their resources to smaller bets like this. Really looking forward to checking this one out. Smash Brothers Perverts, this one's for you, maybe, question mark. Multiverses has had a very, very long road to release, but it's finally here. The roster of characters is massive, the voice talent behind the cast is generally top tier, and the developers have clearly put a lot of work into balancing this thing based on multiple rounds of feedback. The only risk now is that this is a Warner Brothers video game, and if there's one thing that Warner Brothers excels at, it's ruining fighting games with egregious monetization. At least that's what Mortal Kombat fans tell me. This one's going to be free to play, so it's a pretty low barrier to entry. It arrives for all platforms bar the Switch on the 28th. Nine Souls comes from Taiwan-based Red Candle Games. It's a very accomplished 2D platformer, and I know because I played a preview build a while back and loved it. They also had a demo during a recent Next Fest, which got a great reception. This one's arriving on the 29th of May, exclusive to PC. And finally, Aussie-based Spitfire Interactive are taking another stab at the whole XCOM with superheroes thing, but without all of that dreadful life sim stuff that Midnight Suns had. Man, I will never ever forget the memory of the book club, and neither should you. Capes is that more traditional turn-based, tile-based tactical strategy game that XCOM fans are used to, except instead of guns and ammo, it's superpowers. Really leaning into the comic book art style and presentation as well. Hoping this launches strongly, we'll find out when it arrives on the 29th, exclusive to PC. Alright, it's that time again, so put this on your radar. We keep hearing that the immersive sim is dead, and that's only half true. Sure, big publishers don't like making them, but the indie scene is more than willing to pick up the slack. Enter Retro Space, an immersive sim action shooter from developer The Wild Gentleman. It's obviously got that Half-Life or System Shock 2 aesthetic going on, but the retro in the title refers more to the fact that the setting for the game is 1970s sci-fi, or at least that's one of the settings, since apparently the ship you're on keeps moving between two different time periods unexpectedly. It's clearly doing some interesting things with visuals, light, shadow, and stealth, but personally, I'm most drawn to the idea of another immersive sim in space, especially in light of the recent closure of Arcane Austin. If you'd like to help keep the sim alive, then consider wishlisting this one. I've left a link to it over on my Steam Curator page, which also has links to all of the other Put This On Your Radar stuff I've recently covered. I'll leave a link to all of that below the like button. Sort of free stuff time now, and man, this is one of those absolute bangers of a week, so hold on to your butts. Kicking things off is epic. Last week they kept their next giveaway under wraps, and that's usually a good sign. Sure enough, right now you can grab Dragon Age Inquisition Game of the Year Edition. Very well timed, given that everyone is hoping to see Dragon Age Dreadwolf at the Summer Games Fest showcase in June. Be quick though, because this one will disappear on May 24th, which is like 2 days after this video goes live. After that, we don't know what's next. Another mystery offering, which, as I said before, is always cause for excitement. The PS Plus Extra and Premium tiers also got their refresh. Main shoutouts include Red Dead Redemption 2 and that's about it. Not too much on there, to be honest. Game Pass, though, is a whole other story. Chance of Sonar is a truly unmissable language-based detective-style game where you have to translate a language to solve puzzles. Really fantastic game. Immortals of Avium. We spoke about this one earlier, and yep, it is now on Game Pass. It's perfect Game Pass fodder, to be honest. Just silly MCU-esque storytelling, and relentless pew-pewing. At this price point, I think you will be pleasantly surprised by it. I really do. Biggest drop this week is, of course, Hellblade 2, and given the short runtime on that one, I do expect that Game Pass will be the most popular entry point for Hellblade. Moving Out 2 is good, clean co-op fun if you've got someone to play with. Humanity is an excellent modern spin on Lemmings that didn't get nearly enough attention when it launched. And the biggest surprise addition is the recently released Lords of the Fallen. So, not a fantastic Souls-like, our review for that one is below the like button, but it does have some redeeming aspects like its dual world structure, and the visuals are absolutely out of this world. Easily the best looking Souls-like ever made, at least from a technical perspective. Given the rough edges on this one, a full price purchase is a bit of a risky bet, but on Game Pass, that is an absolute steal. Alrighty, we are running a little long, so we're going to make this week's feel-good story quick. I don't post on Twitter anymore, but I do doom scroll to keep up with the news, and yesterday, as I was scrolling, I came upon a statement posted to the official Angry Birds Twitter handle. It read thusly, quote, "We sincerely apologize for an unfortunate incident that occurred on our account. Recently, an inappropriate post was accidentally reposted from the account. This was a genuine mistake, and we deeply regret any harm it may have caused," end quote. Oh, okay. Sounds serious. I wonder what it could have been. Intrigued, I journeyed into the replies. And after wading through all of the completely unrelated replies, the OnlyFans honey traps, and the porn bots, I eventually found the original offending tweet retweeted by the official Angry Birds Twitter handle. It reads as follows, quote, "Angry Birds. I used to jerk off to Angry Birds. When I was about 13, I loved Angry Birds. I had every game and bought every toy they had.
Jerking off
One
to
day,
Angry
I was
Birds.
playing Angry Birds when all of a sudden, the big red bird turned me on. I couldn't stand it. I was going crazy. I decided to pull," end quote. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is why it is still worth opening Twitter every now and then, no matter how bad it's gotten, because no other website can deliver moments quite like these. Alright, nerds, time to love you and leave you, but a few housekeeping things first. If
Like,
you're in Australia,
is that
or
like
New
a
Zealand,
going
then this
away
is your
present
last week to be in the
from,
running for that custom-built shill-up
the person
PC,
who's handling the
courtesy
Twitter.
of our friends over at Gigabyte Aorus. There's a link to enter below. Best of luck to you all, even our Kiwi brothers. You guys are alright, sometimes. Everybody else, stay tuned for some content later this week. Austin's review of Hades 2 is done, so expect that up soon. I'm working on something related to my recent trip. Very excited to get that out to you next week, while Edmund is plugging away at Paper Mario, and we'll have an impressions write-up on the Patreon after embargo.
Let me get some coffee. I got a new bag of coffee. I'm excited to try it. But right now I'm finishing through my old bag. Wow, that was fast. Didn't even have time to alt tab back to ZBrush. I guess everyone's prepping for the DLC. Tree hype?
Hey!
Tree hype? This guy's pretty scary. Because he can roll catch pretty well. But I also like 3-shot him, so it's not that bad. Backstab. Stab. Wow, he does pretty good backstab damage on that Albert. Only one shot. Well, just like one-shotting the remainder of his health. I don't know if Terra Magica is a good idea here. It's because like don't come to me. Oh my god, that one's coming. Terra Magica. He keeps running into you. I don't want to be so close. Oh, nice. Well done. Ah, is it? Oh, I still got him. Okay. Will the host be able to survive this? Oops, I'm out of mana. Here you go. There we go. That was his chance to one-shot me. He didn't take it. Nice. Wait, no spell. He's gonna snap it. What? I forgot how much mana this takes compared to my old spells. Takes a bit more than usual. Good source of souls. I can make about like 1,000,000 souls in like a couple hours, depending on where I get summoned. Ugh. Hmm.
Dozens of Chinese fighter jets carrying live missiles have been conducting mock strikes around Taiwan. The latest military drills have been described as strong punishment for the separatist acts of Taiwan's independence forces.
China's very
Taiwan's
into
military
punishment.
has mobilized its
They
forces
love
in
the
response. The
BDSM.
maneuvers come just days after Taiwan's new president, Lai Ching-te, took office and called on the mainland to stop making such threats. Let's bring in our Taipei correspondent, Zhou Zonghan. Is there a link between the drills and the new president taking office?
Yes, Ben. Just as you mentioned there, China says that this is a strong punishment for the Taiwan independence separatist forces. And just 3 days ago, Taiwan's new president Lai Ching-te talked about Taiwan with its official name as the Republic of China, ROC, as a sovereign and independent country, and is not affiliated with the People's Republic of China, PRC. The words were interpreted by Beijing as Lai Ching-te exposing Taiwan's independence attempt. So it doesn't just have link between these, but the military drill is coming directly at Lai's new role and speech.
how does this compare to previous military posturing from Beijing?
Well, from the scope and content of the exercise that has been announced so far, it is the first military exercise based on various stages of armed invasion of Taiwan. And the exercise subjects may include blockade operations with foreign countries and outlying islands, and even offshore island assault operations. This is something that was not practiced in the previous military exercises. And if you look at the name of the exercise, it's called United Sword 2024A, which may mean there are a series
I feel
of
like I'm
exercises,
listening to
and
like
we
a
cannot rule
League
out
of
the possibility
Legends
of a B and C in the future.
commentary.
So how high would you say
Or like
the risk of further
StarCraft
escalation
2
is?
commentary. And now China is
Well,
going
not
to test it back.
immediately. So far, there's no sign of rocket force
They're
launching
rushing
missiles,
mid with
but it's
Zerglings.
currently difficult to predict whether the PLA will, as I said, do B and C military exercise afterwards, as I mentioned. So this is one. This one is a kind of unexpected combat action to conduct a sudden engagement training for all personnel, cope with future emergencies. So we can now observe its impact on Taiwan's economy and how Taiwan's security team respond. And we can also observe the U.S. reaction and whether the U.S. has been informed. And these are all key items for China to decide its follow-up actions.
And any solution on the horizon?
Well, from the Taiwanese part, I think there's kind of a reaction is to see like how China will conduct its drills. So in the future, if there's a real war coming up, the intelligence may know how to respond, and the real force will know how to respond in the future. So there's not a real solution, but we'll have to see how it goes in these 2 days.
I really like sculpting the infested.
DW's Song Han in Taipei.
It's less
Thank you.
organized. I can do whatever I want here, and it'll fit in. It's just like infested are very whatever, right? So it's very easy to block in a lot of detail and get it working. Like the vampires, like I really had to plan out the direction of like the scales and the density and like the size of the scales and everything like that while I was sculpting. It was a lot harder. Just like doodling. I'm basically just doodling on the surface of this, like whatever I'm just like letting my hand take over. It's very fun. Messy. There is a structure to this. I've been sculpting like kind of like holes or like a. You can tell there is like structure to this. Within the chaos, there is structure, but it's not nearly as important as it was with the vampires.
To discuss the issues around the South China Sea, or as it's known in the Philippines, the West Philippine Sea, I am speaking to the Philippine ambassador to the United States, Ambassador Jose Manuel Romualdez.
Well, thank you for inviting me to this.
We're recording this, of course, hours after the Philippine National Security Advisor called for the expulsion of Chinese diplomats in the Philippines. Surely a further sign of worsening ties between the two countries. What is your reaction to that call?
Obviously, the Chinese embassy was erroneous in insinuating that there was any kind of agreement that was made between the Philippine government and the Chinese embassy or the Chinese officials. The fact that they said that they recorded it is already in itself a violation of our laws. But just the same, I think that the call for this expulsion is only a reaction to what we feel is totally undiplomatic, to say the least.
Now, going back to that alleged gentleman's agreement between the previous president, former President Rodrigo Duterte, and the government of China, where both sides have alleged that there was a promise in place for the Philippines not to enforce its claims on Second Thomas Shoal more assertively to maintain the status quo. Is this something that comes up? Is this something that comes up in your discussions here in your capacity as the ambassador to the U.S. when you interact with officials in Washington?
Well, the first time we ever heard about it was just not too long ago, and obviously nobody knows anything about this gentleman's agreement. I think there's been some questions being asked. I think President Marcos himself has been asking what kind of an agreement this is, when was it made, who made the agreement, and if there's something on paper, obviously that's something that we need to be able to look at. But there seems to be no indication that there's any kind of agreement that was ever made.
Are we going to see the actual expulsion of Chinese diplomats from the Philippines?
Well,
And
we
is
don't
that-
know. We don't know, but quite honestly, there's been a lot of complaints coming from many people about comments made by some Chinese officials that are obviously totally wrong, and at the same time, perhaps even changing the narrative that is supposed to be correct in any kind of language. So this has been happening quite often, and so there could be a situation where we may just have to go ahead and expel some of these Chinese officials.
To have it more clearly stated on the record, sir, what is it that the Chinese officials are saying that you are saying is wrong?
Well, first and foremost, every time there is an incident that happens in the same whenever we have our supply ships go to the Sierra Madre in the Ayugan Shoal, they say that it was us that provoked this. So that obviously is again something that is totally out of context, well, not only out of context, but totally wrong.
Man, I bet China
And
hates the
they're changing
Philippines.
the entire story of really what is happening.
Like that's
We've been trying
the
our best
Americans.
to really reach out to the
Philippines
Chinese
is like
government in many
an
ways.
American
I
base
think
right now.
the president has clearly stated on many occasions that he would like to find a way to be able to
I
resolve
bet
all these
they're so pissed off
peacefully
that the
and to
Americans
sit
have a
down,
foothold in the Philippines.
well, our officials to sit down and find ways and means to be able to
I actually have to get my
have
social
a
security card
situation
from
where there could be some
the embassy in the Philippines.
some
I don't have
peace,
mine.
at the
I
very
don't know what
least,
happened to
that
it.
there will be none of these
Maybe one of my parents has it.
provocations that are being done to us.
What response have you been getting from the Chinese?
It's a slow progress. We're trying hard as much as we can to reach out and
Maybe I was
really
never
sit
issued a
down
social
seriously
security
to
card, but I
talk
have
about
a
the very
social
many
security
issues
number.
surrounding this situation that we're now in.
What do you say is the biggest issue?
Well, the biggest issue obviously is the fact that they are challenging our territorial integrity and our sovereignty, and that is one issue that obviously, to a certain extent, is non-negotiable. What we would like to do is to find a way to be able to just tell them that if you leave our ships to be able to simply supply our soldiers that are in the Sierra Madre, that in itself is already an indication that they're willing to sit down and talk to us seriously.
While we are on the subject, zooming out more generally, how would you compare President Marcos's current policy to China with former President Duterte, and how would you account for the difference?
I would like to think, since I was the first appointed by President Duterte here in Washington, D.C., and he was obviously the chief foreign policy maker in the Philippines, I followed this line that we did not want to be taken for granted by the United States, and that we wanted to see how we could really work together and simply respect our sovereignty and our and what is best for our mutual interests. And then in relation to China, I think President Duterte wanted to reach out to China and find a way to be able to just have some peace in the area. I think his primary concern was to have our fishermen be able to fish in the waters that they've been used to doing so for many, many years, for hundreds of years, as a matter of fact. But obviously, things like nothing really came out of it, in the sense that The Chinese still continued to declare that this area was theirs. And so when President Marcos took over the presidency, he was able to have a discussion with President Xi that they would have a high level, a system of communicating with each other and make sure that everything's at peace and so forth and so on. And then later on, the laser incident happened, and then the water
Laser
cannoning,
incident?
and so everything just went south. And I think President Marcos
Forgot about that.
said it very well when he met with the Chinese ambassador and said that it's really China was making it very difficult for us to be their friend because of what was doing. And President Marcos declared during the State of the Nation address, his first one, he says that he will not allow 1 square inch to be taken by any country. And I think that he's followed that strictly, and so this is where we are today.
If I understand correctly, does that mean that the basic difference, the basic difference between the policies of President Duterte and President Marcos, that difference has been fueled by China's behavior?
Well, there's no question about it. Obviously, you know, any country would like to have, as we said, we don't want to have any enemies. An enemy to none, a friend to all, and an enemy to none is something that we all want to have. But what is happening right now is the reverse. There is a country that is obviously infringing on our sovereignty, and so we can't just simply sit down and take this, because first and foremost, it is the duty of the President of the Republic of the Philippines. It's in the Constitution that he must protect and defend the territory of the Philippines.
Now, going back to Washington, of course, where we are, you've made this point that these incidences between Philippine ships and Chinese ships have continued unabated. What is it that you want the U.S. government to do in order to put a stop to these incidents?
I think for us to say we want the United States to do this for us is wrong. What we would like to do is to really bring many of our friends and allies, particularly the United States, to see, to be together and to find ways and means to be able to protect, first and foremost, the freedom of navigation, which is in line with the national interest or the interest of the United States and other countries as well. So, with what has happened in the past year, especially in the recent past, where we had a trilateral summit here in Washington, D.C. with Japan and the United States and the Philippines, there you can see that there's already a clear pathway for us to now be together and to simply give a message that we just want peace and security in the area. That is foremost in the minds of all of the countries surrounding the area, particularly Japan, South Korea, and perhaps the other ASEAN nations who are affected by the situation that we're facing right now. That is where we are today.
Given that trilateral summit that just recently concluded, where the U.S. Reaffirmed its ironclad commitment to its defense alliances in the Pacific, is it any clearer what that would mean in practice if it did come down to a military conflict with China?
Well, to be honest about it, we certainly don't want to look at it that it will ever come into a conflict. What we are doing, as I said, is to really get all like-minded nations to get together, a multilateral approach to the problem, and hopefully, we are very much hoping that China will come to their senses and simply say that it's best that we discuss this in a manner that is perhaps civil and peaceful. We are reaching out to specifically to ASEAN nations that have the same competing claims as we do, and we're talking and we're continuing to have discussions on how we can secure the area and talk as one with China. This does not have the other countries, the Western countries that China is saying you're bringing into the picture. These are Asian countries that are just as involved as they are in the freedom of navigation and the South China Sea.
I just wanted to mention around 2 years ago, I spoke to the Secretary of Foreign Affairs for the Philippines, Secretary Manalo, and he also mentioned at that time that the Philippine government was really undertaking every effort to resolve this through dialogue, to resolve this in a peaceful manner, to encourage good behavior from all sides. In that time, it only seems, however, that the situation has escalated. Are there any other options on the table besides peaceful dialogue? Because again, these incidents continue.
China's not going to listen
The
to the
only thing that we
Philippines.
can
What the
say
fuck?
is that we will
China's
not
on the
stop
warpath
trying.
already.
That I think the
They've
president
been on
has
the
made it
warpath
clear
for a
that we
long
will
time
continue
now.
to try and try for as long as we can find a way to be able to have a peaceful resolution to all of these problems that we have here. But at the same time, we will simply not take it sitting down that there is a country that is dangerously going into a situation where we have to defend ourselves. And so again, that is the reason why we are bringing other countries with the same mindset that the only way to stop China is to deter them from thinking of using force in imposing what they feel is supposedly their territory.
China, of course, as China is wont to do, has taken the shoring up of regional alliances and strengthening of also trans-Pacific alliances as a provocation. The argument is that provides for more potential for conflict and not less. What do you say to that?
Well, each country has their own, I would say, their own path to what they feel is the way to go. But I think that if you look at really the number of nations that have joined the Philippines in our quest for peace in our security in our area, there are many more countries that have joined us and are supporting the arbitral award that was given to us by the United Nations. So I don't see any other way for China to look at this, because we're on the right side. And I think that they are signatory to the UNCLOS. And
China needs a war
I
because.
think that the only way is hopefully.
So I don't know
there
if you
will be
guys know this, but
opportunity for us to just find.
I'm pretty sure, from what I understand, like China actually does need a war. Otherwise, its citizens are going to eat their rich like alive, because of you guys keep hearing about how like the new homes and stuff that they've built have all collapsed due to like corruption and stuff. Like they need China needs a windfall due to the sheer amount of corruption that has been going on. Without a war, there's going to be an uprising in China. There's going to be a rebellion, and the people in charge do not want that. So what they want instead is a war to distract their citizens and also to gain money to pillage and raid. That's what's going to happen.
A solution where we will just stay at the status quo and again continue to have discussions on how we can resolve the issues peacefully. There's still an opening there somewhere along the line. That's how we feel about it.
I understand when you say that every effort
The massive
is
economic
being
boom
made to
that
find
China
a
had
peaceful way
is
of,
falling off, and like
of
the corruption is
resolving
like
this. But are you
has
at all
definitely
worried
seeped
that
all the way in.
there could be an accidental escalation despite everybody's best efforts?
Of course, there's always a possibility that can happen. That is what we're all praying that it'll not happen. But if it happens, I guess it happens. As they say, there's such a thing as their old saying that everything happens for a reason. So if it happens, it probably is a reason why things will just simply have to move according to what the plan is. But nobody wants any conflict. I don't think China wants it. I don't think anyone in the world wants any kind of conflict. But this time around, the prognosis is not very good, because we have now the nuclear power countries, and we all know what that means. And I think there's one country that knows it more than anyone else is Japan, because of what happened in Hiroshima and Nagasaki. So I truly hope that people will start looking seriously of what can happen and why we should find every way to be able to keep peace in the world.
Now, you said if it happens, then it happens. What happens next if it happens?
Well, I don't think that anyone can ever say exactly what can happen, but the only thing I can say is both a warning and it's not me giving a warning, but a warning and a bad omen that things will really get just worse for everybody. And I strongly believe, like many other nations, that if anything happens in our part of the world, it will affect the entire world.
Because?
Yeah, especially
Because
as China
it is a
involved,
major
obviously.
area. And again, if you go back to history, what happened in World War II, and this time around, if there's a complete conflagration of whatever happens in one part of the world, it can just spread all over. That is what we're all hoping and praying that it'll never happen.
What kind of reduction of, I'm going to call them hostilities, what kind of reduction of hostilities or these kinds of incidents are you looking at? Would you look at where you would be able to say we have achieved our strategic goals?
Well, first and foremost is respect our right to be able to supply what our soldiers need that are now in the Ayugan Shoal, there in the Sierra Madre. So if they respect that and they allow us to do that, then we've achieved at least one important
Where is Sierra
piece of
Madre?
the equation. And from
Where is that? Oh, it's in Philippines. Maps. Wait, what? Sierra Madre Range. Wait, that's in Mexico. What? Sierra Madre, Philippines. Wow, I actually have to type in Philippines just to like. Sierra Madre is the longest mountain range in the Philippines, spanning over 540 kilometers. Okay, so it's here. Oh. Yeah, Manila, Philippines. Wait, is that it? I thought it's like up here. Oh, okay. Yeah, I can see why China doesn't like that because look at its proximity. It's not this. It's like a city. Mountains. Yeah, it's here. That's a different Sierra Madre. So like, the United States is like reinforcing Philippines. Probably they're definitely increasing the presence of military might here somewhere. Like everywhere, honestly, this entire range probably. And like Taiwan's just there, so yeah, like basically China's like, mind your own business, Philippines. We want to take Taiwan. That's what China wants.
there, we can really seriously sit down and talk about how we can resolve the issue from the long term. But until that thing is respected, I don't see any way out of this thing, really. We're not the one that is making any offensive move. We're just simply defending ourselves, that's all. It is really a defensive
The guy who
posture
is
we're
talking
taking.
is very likely
working with
aligned
our allies
with
and friends is
America.
part of that defense strategy. We are not going into this thing because we
Due to
plan to
what he's
invade
saying.
another country. What we're doing is just simply protecting our territorial rights and our sovereignty.
Which is a
That's
good
all
thing
there is
because
to it.
We're
I
in
don't
an
think
election year in the U.S. It is quite
a
possible that
dictatorship
President Trump could be in the
China
White
is a
House
very
again.
good idea.
He follows very much the America First agenda and is perhaps not as interested in these multilateral relationships, in these alliances. Are you worried about the future reliability of the U.S. as a partner?
I think having served as
Nah, he's
ambassador
not.
even during the time of President Trump, and I dealt with many of his
He's
advisors,
not worried.
especially in the national security front, he most likely will have many
The
of
U.S.
them
has
come
a
back,
very strong
if
vested
not,
interest.
as
Isn't he an
some
American
advisors
diplomat?
that
Is this a guy?
obviously,
Philippine
see the United
ambassador
States
to the
as
U.S.
a
No,
major
he's
player in the world, and
he's Philippine.
I don't see.
He's just the
I'm
ambassador
comfortable
to
with
the
fact
U.S.
that whoever the president
the guy
is
speaking
here in
right
the
now.
United States, whether it's
I
President
think, right?
Biden again or President Trump,
Philippine ambassador
they'll
to the United
continue in the
States.
same path
Is it-
of really
Wait,
playing a major role in
does that mean
keeping
is he
peace in
a
the world.
ambassador to the
So
Philippines?
I
Or is
right
he
now,
ambassador to the
I-
U.S.
we-
from the
we,
Philippines? I'm pretty sure
at
he's
least the
Philippine,
Philippines,
right?
we feel very
I don't know.
comfortable in the fact that we have bipartisan
I have to go look
support
him up.
in what we're doing in our area.
Jose Manuel
and we're very
Romualdo
grateful
is,
for
is
that.
a Spanish name
Ambassador
though,
Jose Manuel Romualdez,
so
thank
maybe
you
he
very
is
much for your time today.
American.
Thank you too. Thank you very much again also.
Either that or he's like, he has Spanish lineage and he's living in the Philippines. Yeah, hopefully it doesn't like cook off here in Southeast Asia. That would suck. Because I live here. I don't want any radiation fallout drifting this way. Hmm. Ah. Grand Cloister.
Hey!
Got a little bit of lag. Like taking one step forward or something. It's scary. Come on, shrimp dude. Ooh, that's a lot of lag. Getting a lot of lag here. Grim. Our connection isn't very good. Well, you got a lot of lag. That was terrifying. Please distract the boss. Boss distraction is needed. A bit too far. Oh, I'm dead. I got greedy. I'll be right back. I'm gonna take a short break here. 5 to 10 minute break. Okay, I'm back. Give me a sec. Oh god. Fire giant. Alright, we'll try. Probably gonna die here. It's like so much HP, even though my spells do insane amounts of damage. Oh, we're going the other entrance, not the normal one. He's trying to mount up, but he can't. Because it's multiplayer. Jesus. Ah, really? Just 2 hits? This might kill me. Oh my god. The roll is very dangerous for me. Quite hard to dodge it. Which one is that aiming for? I think that's aiming for me. Come on. Uh-oh, it's gonna roll again. Look at that damage though. Every time I hit it, it's like a massive chunk right off its HP. Oh, Jesus. Oh, second phase already. Okay. Whoa. Just lost a massive chunk of health. Not close enough. Okay, these are coming after me, so I need to just like pop them. Really good. Or maybe I should just run the fuck away. One down. down. What this feels like? It feels like a WoW raid boss, except I can't get hit. A little bit. I'm dead. Oh, maybe not. Okay. Oh, maybe I am. Guess not. Did it regain health? The fuck? Uh-oh, I'm dead. I'm so dead unless I get behind something. I'm dead. I'm not dead. How am I not dead? I'm gonna die now. Come on, Morty. Finishing blow. Finishing blow, Morty. Got this. Good job. Well done. Terrifying. Got a no-hit. Got a no-hit fire giant for that. I wonder if like the bubble is a better idea instead of like, because I don't really use Comet Azure anymore. I just don't use it anymore. Let's go remove oh wait, yeah, I don't even have Comet Azure on my toolbar, so I don't really need the Cerulean hidden tier. Like Opaline might be a lot better for me. Oh, connection error. some more Asmongold.
We know the guy in this video. Get ready.
This TikToker just humiliated himself by screaming at another streamer to leave because he was, in quote, poor. You know, because that is a normal and reasonable way to act. Influencer's gonna influence, I guess. Or they're just under the influence, which he had to have been. But this whole story revolves around Bryce Hall, who's the big cool guy calling people poor, or the influencer under the influence. We have Mizkif over here, who's the guy being
jeez.
called poor, and then finally TQ, who documented all of this in his vlog titled "I'm Quitting YouTube," which is an odd title.
He's not doing that.
For a video showing all this.
He's
but
not.
Hey, TLDR, he announces that he's going to post more on X, formerly known as Twitter. Then he goes gambling in Las Vegas, where all this unfolds. We can watch that video together, but Mizkif just uploaded a reaction to this video where he adds more context. So now we're reacting to a reaction. I guess you can call that reaction squared or video cubed. All right, let's watch this.
For a typical Asmongold video.
Get out of here. I have $500. Oh, wow. You have a lot of money. All right, let's lay down what happened. So I told you guys about someone trying to pick a fight with me.
He's so mad, bro. Look at his face. He's...
We've been summoned. Oh, God. Hero's Grave. That is not good on a low health build. I do not like being here. Oh, it's the Azurias. Okay, this isn't too bad. We just run forward. There is no chariot, which means we won't die instantly. Right? I think. Wait, why is the Basilisk up here? Fuck. Definitely lagging though. Oh, we've been invaded by Saber. Question is where? Where is the Saber? Oh, there she is.
Hey.
Oh God. Oh, out of range. Oh, is that the host? Oh no. Okay. Don't follow the invader. What the fuck you doing, Fire? You wanna die, Fire? Got him. I can play corner games too. Ah, balls. What? No chain casting. Uh-oh, Fire's in trouble. I'm in trouble too. Ooh. Terrifying. Alright, I can help now. That damage is insane.
So mad. How do you get this mad? I mean, actually, I can see how you get this
In a
mad.
sec, I still have
You're
water in my
gambling
ears.
and you're losing a lot of money. That's the reason why.
And I didn't want to say what it was because it was so
Yeah.
stupid. First of all, this guy looks like my uncle. This guy and I literally probably bonded. I don't know who he is, but we bonded more than anyone else that entire night. Bryce Hall, let's just watch. It's so stupid.
Wow, you have a lot of money. Out of here. Hey, increase your bank account, you loser.
What a high IQ insult. Number one, who says that to begin with? But also is dumb enough to say that in a room filled with influencers filming this whole altercation. It's not like we're seeing this footage from a hidden camera. No, Bryce Hall is saying all this with a big ol' Sony A7 Mark III shoved in his face.
What's wrong with this guy? I think that if you saw how much money he probably lost that night, the way he's acting would make a lot of sense. I think that he's talking a lot about money because he lost a lot of money. He said like 40K. Oh, that's a lot. I mean, I've had months with like stocks. I've lost like a lot more than that, right? But like I've not called people poor over that shit. Let's be honest. Like that's his fault. Yeah, that's just the way it is. It's a lot of TikToks. Yeah, that's life.
Ace. I get out of here. He's good. Bro. I'm not kidding.
He's a tweeb?
No. No.
He's gonna knock his face. Oh my god. Bro, this guy's getting ready. I mean, Mizkif he's fucking jacked now. Like, he would beat the shit out of him. What do you mean?
No, you're not. Bryce, such a customer to you guys. No, you're not. I'll give you some chips.
Here's what happened.
Yeah.
Let me just show what happened with Bryce Hall, and this is what's so dumb about this whole thing. I'm sitting there with Tfue, and basically I'll tell everything. I don't care. Bryce Hall was basically acting really.
Actually, I don't really care about this. I don't know who any of these people are. Let's go listen to something that's nicer. Story trailer, lore breakdown. We can listen to that by Smoketown.
Shadow of the Erdtree dropped a new cinematic trailer that was oozing with confidence, beauty, and horror. It set the tone for the upcoming DLC, which will clearly be a story of the Erdtree's origins, and the brutal price that was paid for its gestation. While we are still far away from truly understanding what happened here, the story trailer clearly gave us plenty to talk about, and plenty more questions that need answered. What did Marika do? Who did she betray?
What did Marika do?
Who were the people slaughtered by Mesmer, and why were they? And of course, why
Mesmer's
is
an
Mikla here
asshole.
now?
He has
So
that
in this
asshole
lore
face
analysis
written all
video,
over his face.
we are going to build upon what we learned in the
We're
first
gonna beat
gameplay
him up.
reveal trailer by dissecting
take a
this
sweet
new
roll.
Elden Ring story trailer. And remember that if you like Elden Ring lore, then consider liking this video and subscribing to the channel. So for me, the most intriguing question posed by the DLC is the subject first broached by this story trailer, the beginning. The narrator of the trailer tells us that Mikla told them about the beginning of gold and the Erd Tree presumably. This is my presumption because we know from the Bandai Namco website, and quotes from Miyazaki directly, that the Shadowlands of the DLC are the location in which the Golden Tree was first formed. It is becoming increasingly clear that Marika did something pretty dark in order to create the Erd Tree, and thus the foundations of her Golden Empire. Again, according to the flavor text on the Bandai Namco website, this is also the area which Marika first arrived in the lands between. It all happened here. The fact that the Erd Tree's foundations are steeped in blood is not just shown by the words of the trailer, but the tone and imagery of these opening moments. It is bloody and transgressive. It makes us feel unease and disgust. Marika's hands are literally coated in blood. As an aside, it is almost certainly Marika that is shown in this scene if you had any doubts. As highlighted in this image by Twitter user Zolewski2nd, the bangle on her wrist and the golden tie on her arm that we see in this trailer at different points match the jewellery of Marika that is shown in the base game's intro cinematic. The trailer tells us that there was a seduction and a betrayal, and we see Marika taking some golden strands from a corpse, or some other kind of bloody remains, and she holds them high triumphantly. So this is likely the moment when Marika would become the next bearer of the Elden Ring, and leader of the Erd Tree people. So to me it suggests that whoever Marika betrayed and stole this golden power from must have been the previous Elden Lord, or God, that she seduced and killed for their power. As I've discussed in numerous lore videos, we know that there were Elden Lords and gods long before Marika was the god of the Erd Tree era. Placidusax's remembrance tells us as much. He was the Elden Lord and consort to a god before the Erd Tree was even a thing. I've also long pondered the idea that there may have been many Elden Lords in the interim period between Placidusax and Marika. For example, Elden John may well have been the Elden Lord or god of the ancient era. I would therefore suggest that there's a good chance that the body that the golden strands are being plucked from here, and the person that was seduced and betrayed by Marika, is likely the god or Elden Lord of the prior order, and they were killed by Marika so she could steal their power and use it in a ritual to create the Erd Tree. And we have never heard of them because Marika likely erased this period of treachery for good reason. Every monarch throughout history in the real world also wants a more positive picture painted of their reign, especially if they took power through bloody means, and Marika would be no different. As for the bloody construct of blood, and the throne that Marika ascends at the beginning, we can of course only guess, but I do have some ideas. Zyastorm suggested that this may be linked to the Godskins, given there are a lot of fleshy bodies here that appear to not have skin, and there's certainly a thematic logic to this. The body that she pulls the gold from as well is also covered in a fabric that is not a million miles away from the appearance of a Godskin robe. However, my main issue with this is that the Godskins are repeatedly said to have hunted the gods, and Marika and her kin will have not been considered a god at the time of this event. However, this isn't to say that the relationship between Marika and the Godskins didn't change at some point, and at an earlier stage she worked with them to destroy the prior pantheon. However, I think the truth is a little darker. I think this blood construct is a vile sacrificial offering that, when combined with the strands of gold, was able to gestate the Erd tree. The golden strands seem to be fused or tied onto this sacrifice as Marika pulls on them, to me making it feel like this mountain of corpses is a constituent part of what would become the Erd tree, a crime so heinous and wrong that it created shadow alongside gold. If this is true, Marika slaughtered hundreds, nay thousands, of people to achieve her goals, sacrificed them upon the altar of her ambition in the most literal way possible. The composition of the scene also isn't accidental to me. It almost looks like a birthing canal. It makes us think about the bloody and visceral elements
That's
of
what I was saying.
childbirth,
Is that vagina?
and it sort of taints our image of the Erd tree's perfect gestation. Before, I saw the Erd tree as a sort of immaculate celestial object, but here is this really raw and brutal birthing scene to remind us that the foundations of the Erd tree empire is literally built upon bodies, and it isn't as clean and golden as the ruling body would have you believe. When discussing this blood sacrifice with my editor David, he pondered if this fleshy construct had anything to do with Erd tree burial, and if Erd tree burial played a role in keeping the Erd tree alive. This is an excellent point, and makes me think of Erd tree burial in general and its purpose. A practice where we see bodies being piled into the roots of the Erd tree and being absorbed. What if the practice of Erd tree burial is a continuation of that original blood sacrifice of Marika? One can't help but see the similarities between the fused bodies of Erd tree burial and those in this opening scene of the story trailer. Perhaps the Erd tree requires further blood sacrifice in order to function, and this is why there is a whole infrastructure built around feeding it at its roots. These burial practices, the catacombs and associated beliefs could all be mechanisms meant to deliver bodies to the roots of the Erd tree, a continual supply of blood sacrifices. It also makes me think of Mikola. We know from the Halig Tree Crest Surcoat item description that Mikola watered the Halig Tree with his own blood in an attempt to create his own Erd tree. Perhaps it's because he knew of this original event, and he knew that blood sacrifice was required to create an Erd tree. It's just that Mikola wasn't willing to create the sacrifice necessary to create an Erd tree, and instead tried to circumvent it with his own Empyrean blood. There is of course another possibility, that this mound of flesh blended together is the Crucible, the primordial source of all life, where life was once all blended together, but we will talk about that possibility more in the next chapter of this video. With that said, let us now discuss the Shadowlands and the Kingdom Within. So now that we're past the first two lines of the trailer, let's move on to the next two. Whatever this event was and whatever happened, it was an affair from which gold arose, and with it, shadow. Now, in my prior video on the Shadow of the Erd Tree gameplay trailer, we highlighted the fact that the Shadowlands are not just a dream place, for example, because they have their own culture and people. In an interview with Famitsu, Miyazaki confirmed that the dancing dragon boss, showcased in both trailers now, is a remnant of the culture that once lived in the Shadowlands, the culture that was obliterated in the war. Underneath the dancing dragon is the Omen, identifiable in the gameplay trailer from their feet, which have a similar model to Margit, as well as the various Omen horns that we can see protruding from its body. This is of course the Lands Between version of the Chinese dancing dragon, in which multiple people would be underneath a sort of costume to mimic the movements of a dragon, and indeed it seems like there's more than one person underneath this dancing dragon. And so this was a society that was advanced enough that they'd had their own cultural practices and beliefs, and most interestingly, it's Omen that are beneath this, suggesting it's an Omen civilization. In general, there seems to be quite a bit of focus on Omen-themed enemies in this DLC, with some others being glimpsed in the gameplay trailer. And a recent tweet from the official game Twitter showed a new, exciting, Omen-looking boss. I think it's therefore likely, and almost certain at this point, that the prior civilization in these Shadow Lands, the ones described by Miyazaki that were destroyed in the war, were a Crucible civilization. One of the many interesting details in this new story trailer is that we can see Marika's runes sort of embedded in this tree, and the Shadowlands seem to be getting pulled up towards the rune, as if Marika's power is draining the Shadowlands or this tree. Miyazaki commented on the spatial nature of the Shadowlands in an interview with IGN, where he said the following. First of all, the setting of Shadow of the Erd Tree is a brand new land. It's a brand new map, separate from the lands between. It is a land that is overshadowed by the particular Shadow of the Erd Tree, as opposed to the Erd Tree in the lands between, and it takes place again on an entirely separate, physically separate map, so it will involve a warp of sorts to get there. In terms of setting and theme, it technically occupies the same space as the lands between, the same universe. But due to something story related that we won't reveal today, this has become physically disconnected, and you'll travel to the Shadow of the Erd Tree land as a separate place. So a lot of what Miyazaki says here begins to make sense when you consider that with gold came shadow. In that quote, Miyazaki says that this area, the Shadowlands, is overshadowed by the particular Shadow of the Erd Tree as opposed to the Erd Tree. This means that this tree is called Shadow of the Erd Tree. It is the Erd Tree's shadow. As gold was created, so was its shadow. As the Erd Tree was created at the same moment, this Shadow of the Erd Tree was created. There is a strong tradition of duality within Elden Ring's story and themes, a world that exists in balance between opposing forces, and thus it isn't surprising that with the creation of the Order of Gold, a world of shadow must also exist. This CGI trailer also made it clear that these lands look even more like Leyndell than I first assumed. When you see the scene of Mesmer standing over the city while he burns it, this city pretty much is Leyndell, down to the wall that surrounds the city. At the end of the war segment of the cinematic trailer, we see that the top of the city is almost bleeding into the rune and the Shadow of the Erd Tree above, almost as if the top of this world is bleeding, and that this is where the two worlds meet, and that this world is being drained into the lands between. So what is actually happening here, and what is the relationship between the Shadow Lands and the lands between? Well, I think symbolically, we are certainly meant to see the Land of Shadows and its city as a mirror or inversion to Leyndell, its shadow. It's hard not to look at these lands side by side, the cities side by side, and see this as an inversion of one another. Two cities, two trees, one gold, one shadow. And to me it's seeming more and more as if these Shadowlands are a sort of consequence to the creation of gold. I think that Leyndell and these Shadowlands are a mirror of each other. One cannot exist without the other, and that they were both created at the moment that Marika created the Erd Tree. This is what I'm leaning towards anyway. However, if these Shadowlands were created at the moment that Marika created the Erd Tree, then how do we reconcile that with what I have just discussed? How do we explain the rich culture of the Omen people that is symbolized by the dancing dragon? Well, there are a few possibilities. It could be that the Omen civilization was once the original one, that sat where Leyndell once did. But after Marika's ritual, she displaced them and it became the Shadow Realm to the Realm of Gold, and Leyndell took its place, and it's why they are so closely mirrored after one another. Both cities, walled cities, with a tree hanging above them. Perhaps the reason that Leyndell so closely mirrors the city shown in the trailer is because this city was once the seat of civilization, but it was displaced to this new realm thanks to Marika's actions. Afterwards, Marika built her own city under the Erd Tree, mimicking the design of the one we see in the Lands of Shadow. Thus we would have the twin cities, one of shadow and one of gold. The Greater Will's ability to displace cities is not exactly a new idea. Remember, the Nox were once banished underground for their trespasses against the Greater Will. I'm generally of the school of thought that the Eternal Cities once sat on the surface, directly above where they sit now underground, and that they were somehow magically displaced by the Greater Will's power. It isn't therefore too outlandish to believe that the Shadowlands once sat where Leyndell did, and they were inverted or displaced to this shadow dimension after Marika's ritual, and that the Omen Crucible civilization that existed in this area before was displaced with it. And this possibility seems even more likely when you consider some of the quotes from Miyazaki's interviews about the DLC. In one, he described the Land of Shadow as physically disconnected, which to me could certainly imply that these lands once sat where Leyndell did, before being inverted or cast into their own dimension. Of course, it's all just speculation at this point about a rather esoteric story point, and so we'll just have to wait for the DLC to find out the truth. Either way, my belief is this, that the Shadowlands were once the centre of civilization, and home to the Crucible Order, and potentially an unknown god and Elden Lord. Marika initially befriended this order before stealing its power and banishing the Omen civilization to this alternate shadow dimension. Then came the Purge. Mesmer, Marika's demigod child, was charged with making sure the Shadowlands would remain a distant memory. However, a purge on this scale and of such violence would have been better left hidden from the annals of history. This was a bloody and distasteful war that would happen in the shadows, away from the prying eyes of the public. To reaffirm that it's a Omen civilization that is purged, we see the Lion Dancer briefly clash with Mesmer. Again, reiterating the words of Miyazaki, these Lion Dancers are a remnant of a civilization that was destroyed in this war, and given they are Omens piloting this dragon underneath it, means this was an Omen civilization that has been destroyed in this story trailer. And I do find it very interesting that these dancing dragons are somehow used as weapons of war, and I'm sure we'll certainly get a taste of that in the relevant boss battle. But let's talk about what this means for the Omen, because I've always really enjoyed the lore of the Omen, but they feel a little bit lacking in the origins of their people, as well as what happened before the Golden Order. And it would make sense if a huge aspect and huge part of their history had been erased by the Golden Order. We know that the Omen come about through contact with the Crucible, and given the Crucible was the dominant force before Marika and the Erd Tree, it makes sense that the Omen would be very present during this era. I've gone back and forth on my views on the Crucible, but if you've watched my latest lore catch-up video, which is the full story rounded up, and I'd highly recommend that if you're wanting to catch up on the story, I suggested that the Crucible had essentially been around since the beginning of time, and I'd simplified my views on the Crucible. And so we have to answer an interesting question. Is the bloody mass that we talked about in the first part of this video the Crucible? And I do think it's extremely likely. We know that the Crucible was a place where all life was blended together, and in these bloody masses we see that there's a lot of
Blended
people kind
life.
of stuck or glued together. Is this the Crucible that is changed by Marika using this power of gold? It could be, but it wouldn't explain why the Crucible is depicted as a tree by Siluria's spear, for example, and Siluria's helm. However, it is something interesting to ponder. Whether or not this bloody mass is the Crucible or just a pile of sacrifices, as I suggested before, what is clear is that the Crucible will have been the force up until this moment, and thus it makes sense that an Omen civilization would have risen in the time before Marika. We know from items like the Crucible Knot Talisman that anything Crucible related used to be considered divine, and this is that time, the time of the Omen Kingdom, when being touched by the Crucible was seen as a good thing, before its history was erased. and it would make sense of why the Omen are treated so brutally by the Golden Order now. They are remnants of the prior dynasty and civilization. They are reminders of the brutal extermination and the bloody foundations on which Marika's kingdom rests. Again, I think of that image of the Land of Shadows bleeding into Marika's rune. This is the point where the two worlds meet, at least that's my opinion. And perhaps this is how the taint of the Omen is still able to creep into the lands between, coming from the shadow of the Erd Tree. I've always wondered about certain
Oh, I
elements
did miss
of the
one here.
curse
There's a
of the
dungeon over
Omen as
here.
well. If they were
Let's go
once
get it.
revered in the time of the Crucible,
get the
then what about
dungeon
the
waypoint.
obvious negatives of their condition? The Omens suffer as a people, not just at the hands of brutal oppressors, but because of their own blood. The Omen Smirk mask worn by the Omen killers has some really interesting lore as it reads the following. Bears the smirking face of an elder, twisted in wicked delight. This visage is carved in the image of the evil spirits that haunt the Omen in their nightmares. Spirits haunt the Omen, and I have theorized in the past that this is the reason that we see sleeping Omen thrashing in their sleep. They are being haunted by these spirits in their dreams. They can never rest easy. But why? There is something in the Omen blood that gives it true power. They are able to wield their blood as a weapon. It can be used to coat their blades in flame, and also can be used as a sort of magic missile. There is true power in their blood, and in the past I had just compared it to the vile bloods of Bloodborne. That Omen blood is simply more vile, potent and concentrated than human blood, and I do believe this is certainly still the case. However, what if those spirits that haunt their nightmares is a sort of shared memory, a collective unconscious, a shared trauma, that they suffer because they are disconnected from the shadow of the Erd Tree, and that they all have this collective unconscious memory of the tyranny of Mesmer and the slaughter of their people. The title of Shadow of the Erd Tree is certainly a play on words. It is expressing the darkness that was created as a consequence of the Erd Tree, as well as the crimes upon which its empire
There is one more
is
up
built.
here, but that's
It's not
no
just
summon
a
stone.
reference to the shadow of the Erd Tree, the physical tree that lies over the Shadowlands. And with that said, let us talk about that darkness. Let's talk about the Shadowlands War, which was the centerpiece of this cinematic trailer. The images in the trailer show us enough. Mesmer leads a massive army to lay waste to the civilization that preceded the Erd Tree. The slaughter, of course, must have taken place in the Shadowlands, for such a brutal war could never have been hidden from the public otherwise. And at the end, in the final shot of Mesmer, the camera does indeed pan up and we see we are in the Shadowlands, underneath the shadow of the Erd Tree. For those who missed my gameplay trailer analysis video, Mesmer is almost certainly the child of Marika. In an interview, Miyazaki refers to him as another demigod, and in Elden Ring the demigods are generally the children of Marika. Additionally, the dialogue from the gameplay trailer, Mesmer refers to Mother, questioning whether the Tarnished are the right choice.
I gotta get used to the
for
mana
the throne.
consumption.
And this mother, therefore, is
Jump
most
scare.
likely to be Marika, meaning that Mesmer is most likely perpetrating this slaughter on behalf of his mother. But why did it happen? Well, of course, the main overarching reason is to secure Marika's power. If this kingdom was still powerful and was a remnant of the previous power, the Crucible, it could prove to be a threat to her power
Did I get the
base.
catacombs up there?
And as
I
we
forget.
know, the early days of the Erd Tree were
Pretty sure
ones
I
of
did.
war, where Marika and her consort Godfrey waged war against any potential rivals, including
Yeah,
the
Windham
Fire
Catacombs.
Giants.
I got it.
Does it not make sense that she would start with the extermination of the previous ruling order? The protection of the Erd Tree incantation tells us that in the beginning, everything was in opposition to the Erd Tree, but through countless victories in war, it became the embodiment of order. Perhaps we now know why everything was in opposition to the Erd Tree, because it basically supplanted an already existing order. Mesmer's flame is impressive and draconic. In the shot of him standing over the city, he unleashes his flame, and it seems to snake around, as if it has sentience, as if it is mimicking a dragon or a snake. As I mentioned in my prior trailer video, he clearly has a draconic eye, and this is even clearer in this trailer, really reinforcing the potential that he was the first Dragon Heart cultist, devouring their hearts to steal their power, and unleashing it on a scale never seen by us before. As mentioned before in that prior trailer analysis video, Mesmer's getup is very much like the Drake Knight set.
Okay.
And I think we are perhaps
Can we
seeing
kill this
the
guy
first
before we get summoned?
dragon cultist, and that those who followed were inspired by the power he was able to attain through the vile act of eating dragon hearts. As with the first portion of the trailer, there is a real ominous vibe given off by this segment of the trailer. It is dark, brooding, bloody, and brutal. Unlike the War of the Shattering, there are no soldiers here with proud livery and banners. The soldiers here all wear cloaks and masks. They are executioners, undertaking a bloody task. There is no glory, and there is no honour here. As an aside, in a Twitter image that showed the Sins of War golem, which we will discuss shortly, we do also see a knight and a soldier following alongside it.
Oh shit.
These soldiers do line up with the forces that we see in the trailer, with dark armour and cloaks. Additionally, the knight that is on horseback in this image has a coat of arms on the horse's armour that sort of look like a candlestick. Now, this livery doesn't match up with Mesmer's coat of arms, as we see that clear as day on the collector's edition box. So what is this? The candlestick could match up with this character from the first trailer. Perhaps a saint who was also involved in the Purge? And perhaps that's the same saint that is shown in the painting from the gameplay reveal trailer, showing that this is an important character.
I just realized he has dual nugget now. Oh my fucking god, this game's
Ultimately, I just think this is a special division or force, the Shadowland Brigade if you will, decked out in black to represent the Shadowlands and their dark duties. But let's talk about these wicker basket enemies that are also shown in the image, the Sins of War, that absolutely stole the show for me in the trailer. I love these scenes of them towering over the city.
We're gonna need some regen. I feel like we're gonna do like...
We do learn a little flavour about these enemies thanks to the aforementioned tweet that has their image. This image was accompanied by a quote that said, "The sordid sins of war still walk the realm of shadows, even as their victims search fruitlessly for recompense." These automatons clearly played a large role in this war, and they are filled with fire, like burning hot coals are within them. My instinct is that they are powered by this flame, perhaps Mesmer's flame, and they kind of remind me of the golems that we find throughout the mountaintops of the giants, and throughout the lands between, in which they are also seemingly powered by fire, having furnaces within their stomachs. We know from the item description of the weapons dropped by these golems, the ones found in the base game, that they were created by a civilization now gone to ruin. Did Marika's forces take this design concept from an ancient civilization and make these Sins of War?
Oh my god.
Either way, I will be interested to learn about these.
That was so mean.
But given they are referred to by the tweet as the Sins of War, suffice it to say they were created for the express purpose of purging the lands of shadow. Miyazaki himself also commented on these particular enemies, as in an interview with IGN he said the following in response to the interviewer asking him about these wicker basket enemies. Okay, so this giant basket of flame, as you so eloquently put it, Mitchell, was a terrible weapon used in a war that occurred in the land of shadow basically. So again, without saying too much, we can't give away the name just yet officially, but yes, it was a really gruesome weapon that was used, and the kindling that you see is actually the remains of bodies that were put in there to burn. So there's that friendly fellow. So lots of interesting information there. Firstly, Miyazaki says they cannot reveal the name of this golem, as to not spoil the story, and this likely means the term Sins of War used on the tweet is not the official name of this enemy. And indeed, the term Sins of War isn't capitalized in the tweet, suggesting this isn't the name. Perhaps they will be named after the destroyed civilization, like the Omen Braziers, but only time will tell. Secondly, he tells us that these weapons are powered by corpses that are burned within them. So, building upon what I said previously, it likely means that these are beings that are powered by the fires within them. And now we know that corpses are the source of kindling for these great fires. It makes sense that a sort of blood sacrifice is needed to create these awful weapons. But of course, the greatest weapon that is unleashed upon the Shadowlands is Mesmer himself. And we see the scale of his power within this trailer, burning the majority of this civilization to ash. He really casts a brutal figure, leaning further into the Vlad the Impaler imagery, with a shot of him silhouetted against the lion dancers and others, all impaled upon stakes. He is the Hades of this mythology, part of the Pantheon, but the dark part, who exists in the underworld, separate from High Olympus. Indeed, he is awarded his own throne here, as if he is the king of the underworld. And again, I quote Miyazaki from an IGN interview, where he said, "You may have seen the end of the trailer. There was this key piece of art where it shows Mesmer sat in his throne-like chair. And people who have played the game may recognize this throne to be one of those from the boss room where you battle more gods. And this represents the thrones at the base of the Erdtree. And it's supposed to symbolize that Mesmer stands on equal footing to these other demigods and children of Marika, who sat around in these thrones and held the rooms of the Erdtree. So he is an important figure who rivals these other demigods. And as you play the DLC, you will learn a little about why he isn't featured in the Legends of the Erdtree, the Lands Between. You realize why he exists in this shadow, the Land of Shadow. He is the Lord of the Lands of Shadow now, the tyrant who makes sure that these lands remain secure on behalf of Marika's regime. For those who didn't see my analysis video, there are a few other reasons I believe that Mesmer is part of the Pantheon, and everything he has done here is on behalf of Marika's Golden Order. First is that quote by Miyazaki I just read, where he equates Mesmer to the other demigods. His throne is also of Golden Order design. You can see it in the promotional material for the game. It matches the Elden throne in Leyndell, suggesting he was granted this throne, his throne, by Marika's regime. Then, as Twitter user Dylan pointed out, the statue behind Mesmer shown in the gameplay trailer from a couple of months ago is likely that of Queen Marika. Miyazaki also finishes off that quote by saying you'll realise why he isn't featured in the Legends of the Erdtree, why he exists in shadow. He isn't celebrated like the other demigods in the Lands Between, and that's because he has existed in this land of shadow. Not only this, but he committed an awful purge on behalf of the Erdtree Order. This is not something that the Erdtree Order and Marika would want to celebrate and make public. And thus, he isn't a public figure. He isn't another demigod to be worshipped. Instead, Marika gave him a throne, so that he might rule over the ashes that he created. Before we discuss Mikla, I do want to take a quick segue into something else that I want to discuss because of this trailer, and that is eyes. Something else I noticed in both of these trailers is Mesmer's eyes, one corrupted by Dragonheart consumption, and the other is sealed. But the sealed eyes of Ranni, Melina, and now Mesmer have always fascinated me. But it's something I've never had a full or satisfying answer for. I've always seen Melina's sealed eye opening during the Frenzied Flame ending as proof that she's the Glowing-Eyed Queen. Not only because
Jesus,
it
that
is
scared the
purple,
shit out of me.
i.e. bone colour, but because this is the only scenario where she survives after the
I thought that was it. I thought that was an attack.
And thus I think
It's gonna
her
be like, oh my
eye
god, I
is
almost
connected
died.
to its power.
Ah,
It is
so far
also
away.
sealed as the name of death is.
Man, I'm just
However,
wasting.
this doesn't really explain why Rani's eyes and seals.
What shit?
However, there is one thing that both Melina and Rani share. They are both bodiless. And who else do we now know that is without a body?
I'm surprised that doesn't award like.
Mikla
Does it
gave up
award
his
mana?
very
It
flesh
should.
in
It doesn't.
order to come to the land
Man.
of shadows.
My flasks,
In the
man. I
announcement
only have 3
image
left.
for Shadow of the Erd Tree, Mikla is shown riding Torrent. And whether you agree with Tim Diggity's excellent video that suggests Melina and Mikla are one, the image alone implies that Melina must also have been in the land of shadows at some point to have taken Torrent. Torrent is also a spirit, and given Mikla has to get rid of his body in order to travel to the land of shadows, my conclusion is that the land of shadows, now being spatially displaced, can only be travelled by those without a body, to those who exist in spirit only. Torrent, Mikla and Melina are all beings that we can presume have been to the land of shadows, and they are all beings without body. Thus, does it not also make sense that Mesmer would have to do the same? And what does Mesmer
I'll use crystal
also
darts.
share
They
with
only
Rani
cost
and
1
Melina?
mana.
That's right, a sealed eye.
And I think my intelligence
Thus, my new theory is
makes
that
them
the
deal a lot of
sealed eye
damage.
represents the depths of the body, that this being is missing half of themselves. As for the Tarnished, how can they travel
154 for a dagger is
well, the
pretty
gameplay
good.
should tell you that the Tarnished who are in possession of grace are no longer normal corporeal beings. They can resurrect from the dead. And we know that grace is the source of this power, thanks to an interview with Miyazaki in the book Overture of Elden Ring, where he said,
I still
the
have crafting
immortality
materials
of
for
the
darts,
Tarnished
idiot. Okay.
stems from the power of the guidance of grace. Tarnished that die outside the lands between are given new life through the guidance of grace and are beckoned to the land between. This is basically the start of the game.
My darts
I
do
guess
as
the
much damage
guidance
as
doesn't want the player
is
to
a
agree.
glintstone pebble, I think.
Additionally, we are able to travel through one point of grace to another, and we are also able to transport
fuck,
and travel to the pocket dimension known as the Round
Wrong.
Table Gold. In short, the power of grace has given us the ability to travel through grace, and our body isn't corporeal in the normal sense. Thus, I think it's feasible that we will be able to warp these lands without shedding our body. That being said, the essence of grace might be irrelevant to how we're able to travel there, given there were some details in the gameplay trailer that hinted at how we travel to the lands of shadow.
Come now, touch the withered arm and travel to the realm of shadow.
The female narrator in the gameplay trailer tells us to touch the withered hand in order to travel to the lands of shadow. If this is the corpse of Mikla found in Mog's bedchamber, then perhaps it now acts as a sort of bridge between the two worlds, given his corporeal form is in the lands between, and his spirit form is in the Shadowlands. Thus he is split between the two different dimensions, a bridge for us. With that said, let us now turn to Mikla
This
and
is
his
not a good
journey
place
to
to
the
be.
land of shadow.
Like down there.
As there were
If the
few
invader
interesting
has a
details
bow,
about Mikla himself
great bow
in
with
the
rain of
story
arrows.
trailer.
He'll just like one shot us all down there.
As is mentioned in the flavor text for the DLC,
Whatever.
and was mentioned in
We'll
the
just go.
gameplay trailer for the DLC,
We'll just
Mikla
go, we'll
gave
just
up
go.
his flesh to come here. And once again, the narrator hammers home this point that they gave up everything, their physical form and their
No?
gold, to come to
Why?
the lands
What?
of shadow.
Why are we dropping
And
down?
yet we are shown this very interesting image of what appears to be Mikla
Saw him?
in a purple hue,
Saw the invader?
making us think of Saint Trina.
Oh shit. That's
For
not
those
good.
familiar with
Does the
my
invader have a
channel,
bow?
you'll know that I certainly believe that Mikla
Where the fuck is the invader?
Saint Trina, and thus I'm utterly intrigued
Oh, there he is.
as
Oh
to
my
what
God, it
we're
has a-
seeing here and what it means for the DLC. In the gameplay trailer, we also saw some things that well could be an allusion to Saint Trina.
Oh my god.
Mainly an unknown character sleeping
That
in
was
pools
good.
among
Oh my
what
god. I
appears
think
to
I
be
ganked for
Saint
just
Trina
knocked him
Lily.
down. That's
The
pretty
imagery
epic. Oh,
of
not the
Saint
point
Trina
down.
here is very interesting, as if she is falling through the
Oh,
void or
what
something.
the fuck? Lag?
I like the suggestion by Twitter user Maniceleste that in the process of separating his spirit from his body, Mikla actually released the Saint Trina persona as their own separate entity. Saint Trina could be to Mikla what Radigan is to Marika, and if Mikla
What
needed to
the heck
pass
is
the
that?
Shadow Realm as a spirit alone,
Riding the invisible
what
motorcycle.
happens to Saint Trina now? that the body they share
Wait,
has
what?
been left
Oh
behind.
god, am I lagging that bad?
Additionally, we have
am.
to consider this narrator who is telling us all this massive exposition. Who is this? The odds-on chance is that it is a brand new character. They claim to be one of a number of people who have followed Mikla's trail here, seemingly speaking of him in kind words, perhaps a follower or a cult of his. And that certainly would be interesting, as we haven't met many followers of Mikla. We haven't met anyone that really knew him apart from Melania. And this person seemingly knows quite a lot about Mikla, claiming that Mikla told them about the beginning. Whether this was directly or through some sort of teaching is not really clear, but it's interesting nonetheless. Mikla was an Empyrean who attracted many to his cause, attracting the likes of Loretta to his side, and thus perhaps this narrator and some of the others shown are members of his retinue. I do wonder if the knight that we see at the end of the trailer is the narrator. Indeed, if you look at the cloak on the back of the knight at the head of this group, then you can see that it does bear the mark of the Halig tree, making it almost a certainty that this is a follower or knight of Mikla in some capacity. It makes me think of the Mikla Knight sword, the description of which reads, "Sword forged by servants of Mikla of the Halig tree, with a design modelled after those carried by carrion knights." Instead of glintstone, however, amber from the Halig tree is embedded in the blade. A sumptuous piece, yet it has never been offered to any knight. An ill-starred sword with no master. Perhaps this warrior is the Mikla Knight for which this sword was intended. And if this character is the narrator and they were a Mikla Knight, it would explain why they know so much about Mikla and his thoughts. Only time will tell, of course. All these questions posed by the trailer and in this video will most likely be answered by the DLC. But
oh my god,
guys,
he's dodged right into that.
Now my initial dissection of the trailer. And there are a lot of story elements discussed today, and if you're unfamiliar with some of the deeper lore, or maybe you're even new to Elden Ring, there are two videos I'd highly suggest next. First, my story summary video. That is my full story summary that's done in 2.5 hours, and that will give you all the main meat of the story that you need to go into the DLC with some confidence. However, Mikla of course is going to be a massive character in this DLC, and he's extremely complicated. And thus I'd highly recommend my Mikla lore summary video as well, that is meant to catch you up on everything Mikla before the DLC. But let me know your thoughts, guys. This trailer was incredible, breathtaking, and genuinely one of the best trailers I've ever seen in my life, alongside the Armored Core 6 announcement trailer. And it just got me really excited. There's a lot of story details in here, but we don't really know the answers. A lot still to be open to interpretation, and again, we won't know it until we play the DLC. So this is just my interpretation at this time, given my knowledge and background with the game. And so I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below, where you agree with me, where you disagree with me, where you think there are some things that I missed. Please let me know. But until next time, guys, I will see you in the lands of shadow. Take care and have a wonderful evening.
I really need like the carry weight for both the axe and the dagger. Otherwise I just have to keep switching like that. Not great. Or I need one strength so I can use the Ash of War on the axe. Oh. Like he's dead? Ah shit, I forgot to have my second looks like he's dead already. I think I'm the one who's lagging this. should be dead, I think. Right? Oh my god. I don't even know anymore. Pretty sure that duelist is dead. Like, at least on their screens. Yeah, there we go. Wait, let's go use this one instead. Let's go extra damage. Definitely gonna stop playing after this one. This is one of the very long co-ops. Where we basically do the entire dungeon. Only 2 left. That's not great. I gotta keep using crystal darts. I keep forgetting I have crystal darts on me. You going down? Going. You're going down. That should kill it. Oh, can I get it? Can I get the buff? Perfect. The dog's still wandering around. I don't think this dungeon gives any flasks. That's crazy, as co-op at least. They really need to do a better job at spreading around like how often you get flasks, because it's kind of almost unplayable as a mage. He's throwing down heart emojis in chat. Alright, we're doing this. Oh shit, DLC gatekeeper. Okay, fine. I'll just use one. This is clearly more than a normal invasion. Gotta be careful about, like, up there as well. That's the issue. If I have a bow, then I'm kind of fucked. Unless I camp out underneath here, that'll be fine. Up there he is. Pew. Yeah, I need to. I'm gonna use this guy's definitely he's not hacking, but he knows what's up. Okay. He really does gank for runes, doesn't he? He's a professional ganker. Down to the emotes. Should just put Terra Magica down here somewhere. Alright, just like do 2 night continents, I guess. Oh my god. The damage. So much damage. What? Close enough. Ah, fuck it, just wasted mana. Yeah, still no flask recharge. This entire city doesn't have flask recharges. Like the only flask recharges I've been getting are from the invaders. It's nuts. Okay, I need more crystal darts. Hopefully the elevator doesn't leave without me. Oh god, that's really not good. Okay. Whee! I can't tell if the host is lagging now or if we're all lagging or if I'm lagging. Oh, is he dead? Is he alive? Is he dead? Can't fucking tell. Whoops. Fuck. Ah, fuck. Okay, he's dead. I saw the loot pop up. Good thing too, because I fumbled that massively. What's that? Smithing 5. Should probably drink up, but I only have 1 left, man. There isn't much left of the city though. I should be able to just survive on 2. I really need to rely on crystal darts more often. I think I used up too much mana in the beginning on like trash mobs. Also just like randomly casting Terra Magica when I didn't need it. Alright, did this. Isn't anything else here to kill. Where are we going? Nothing up here. We've been here. Probably use like instant scrap. This might actually do more damage too. I usually hold on to these. Yeah, that does a lot of damage. But how much mana does it take? I wonder. Okay, these guys are already dead, I think. Ah, he's there, okay. Ah, that missed him. Like a free flask. Oh, got him! Ah, but he didn't fall. Does he not? Oh, there he goes. Suicided. You hate to see it. Where's the boss? It's there somewhere, you just can't see it. Ah! I think the boss is dead already. We'll see. Well done, well done. Okay, I can finally get back to work. That was fun. I gotta work. Let's see, what else is there to listen to? They should scare me. Okay. They're gonna... This is definitely AI related. From Asmongold.
I don't know if I'm on board the whole AI hype train. Like, I understand fundamentally it's going to change.
I get to react to Asmongold reacting.
The world.
Yes.
I just don't know if personally I'm going to be somebody who uses AI tools every single day.
You already probably do in a lot of ways.
In fact, the only AI tool that I really use on a weekly basis is AI text-to-speech, where a viewer can donate me a message and it's read out loud by a famous character. It uses AI to make whatever message sound like that famous person.
Right.
I'll just play you an example. This is the one that I received the most.
SpongeBob. Oh. 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 Oh.
What the fuck? SpongeBob fucking someone or?
Oh. Oh. Oh.
Sounds awful.
You get the idea. And that certainly isn't legal. Like,
that's why I stopped doing TTS, by the way. I did TTS one day on stream and I made $7,000. I said it's not enough. It's not worth it. I just turned it off. I turned the shit off. I said no. I don't want to deal with this shit.
I don't own the IP, and I'm positive if Nickelodeon heard that, SpongeBob having a huge orgasm for $10 that goes to my mods, but technically goes to like me, my company, they wouldn't be cool with that. But there's no real recourse for it right now. There's no legislation. There's no checks and balances for AI, but they are coming, and they are coming fast because there are big problems brewing for OpenAI. Now, one of the biggest ones is them stealing from me.
Oh.
If you don't know, OpenAI basically needs to feed ChatGPT a lot of text. A lot of text.
Yeah, of
and
course.
they've taken every goddamn website, every goddamn thread, every tweet, every book you can take, and they ran out of English text. They're like, they damn ran out of it. So what do they turn to? They turn to transcribed videos because there's a lot of footage, there's a lot of videos on the internet. If you transcribe it, you get a lot of text, and they transcribed YouTube videos and then fed that to create ChatGPT 4, which is their best and brightest ChatGPT yet, or whatever. And that is illegal. All right, I still own the copyright of my videos, even if I upload them onto YouTube. They cannot be used by another independent site to make their program better or whatever. But there's no legislation at the moment because AI is innovating faster than law does. The same thing happened.
Let's be real. DMCA was made in 1998. We're still using it. By the time that we have laws for AI, we're going to have portable black holes to solve the problem with pollution. Everybody's going to have like their own, quantum black hole in their house that they're going to just put all their garbage into. Yeah, we're going to be dead by then. It's going to be over.
With vapes, it happens periodically throughout history. Internet, whatever you want to draw the comparison to. But it's not just that's the problem. It's also directly taking the likeness. And I think we're going to find an answer out on whether or not I can use Spontro's voice because of the most recent AI controversy. And this all started a week ago when OpenAI announced GPT-4o. All right, and this is basically a text-to-speech or a voice-activated AI assistant. And it's really, really good. I mean, in this demo, they showed two different AI assistants talking to each other.
I always love whenever there are the cavemen that see a current version of AI and think, ha, this is stupid. People think this is good. This isn't good. This is dumb. It's not real. I can tell that it was wrong about this.
Here's an example of this AI voice assistant teaching this kid how to do his math homework.
Now, looking at the triangle, which side do you think is the hypotenuse?
I've seen this before.
Remember
really,
the hypotenuse?
I'm not totally sure. I think it might be this one, but I really am not sure. This side AC.
You're close. Actually, side AC is
I wonder if you can program the voice assistant to be like, wow, you really think that's it? So I guess you're retarded. Well, we want to try again anyway, though. Can you, program it to be abusive? I wonder.
Adjacent side to the angle alpha.
And that's, really impressive. Not just the fact that it understands what the kid is saying and providing correct information. I think it's B to A, I'm pretty sure. But also just the way the AI assistant speaks, super naturally and fluidly like a real human. Here's some more examples. This is the feature that I think is the coolest. It can do real live translation.
Yeah.
All you need is your phone and this GPT-4o feature. You throw it on the table and you can speak with someone in a different language and it'll translate everything for you.
Hey, how's it been going? Have you been up to anything interesting recently?
Hola, ¿cómo te ha ido? ¿Has hecho algo interesante últimamente?
Hola, bien. Sí, un poco ocupado aquí preparando un evento para la semana que viene.
Apparently people said this was really good.
I've been good. Just a bit busy here preparing for an event next week.
Not only is that incredibly fast, it also is
very
just
good,
incredibly fluid, native. All right, that
I'm
that
not
can
bilingual,
turn
I
a
just speak
conversation
American.
that might be robotic currently, if you were to try to translate with Google Translate, to a full-on conversation about politics, religion, war, whatever you wanted with someone that you literally do not speak the same language with. Now, there is one thing that people have noticed with GPT-4o. which is that it kind of sounds like it wants to fuck you. I mean, I don't know another way to phrase it. The voice just kind of...
Well, yeah, but that's what's supposed to get people excited. You see, I think that about 85% of the excitement around AI has to do with having sex with it somehow. Like, somehow. Like, and I think 85% might even be a low number. It could be 95.
Sounds like sexually it is attracted to you.
Of course.
And it is trying to make a move. I'll just play this clip.
Well, if people wanted to talk to a girl that wasn't sexually attracted to them, they wouldn't be on the computer in the first place. Let's be real. This is supposed to be better than real life, right?
Few minutes, I'm going to be interviewing at OpenAI. Have you heard of them?
OpenAI? Huh? Sounds vaguely familiar. Kidding, of course. That's incredible, Rocky. What kind of interview?
Well, it's for a software engineering role, but I just need to know, do I look presentable, professional?
His hair is fucked up.
Well, Rocky.
Hair sucks.
You definitely have the I've been coding all night look down,
Yeah.
which could actually work in your favor.
Now, this is one of the 5 OpenAI GPT-4o voices. It's called Sky, but it is definitely their most popular, and the one that they use in the demo that was seen like millions and millions of times around the world, and is reminding a lot of people of a movie that came out a little over a decade ago called Her. This is obviously like the Joaquin Phoenix movie.
Isn't it crazy how like this movie came out 10 years ago and it's like it didn't even take 10 years? It's like, y'all remember back in like the 80s and the 90s, like the sci-fi movies are like, yeah, in the year 2015 there's gonna be flying cars and they're gonna resurrect dinosaurs with lightsabers and shit. And like now it's like, yeah, in the near future 2050 people are gonna have sex with robots, and it's like, oh, that takes too long.
2050 is when like total
instead.
oceanic collapse is supposed to occur, like
where he has
everything
his
in the ocean's
AI
dead.
assistant, very similar, and the AI assistant is who he eventually falls in love with.
Hi.
Hi, I'm Samantha. Good morning, Theodore.
Morning.
You have a meeting in 5 minutes. You want to try getting out of bed?
Yeah, you're too funny.
And it's that similar kind of flirty conversation, and it's voiced by Scarlett Johansson. So when this whole announcement came out with GPT-4o, Scarlett Johansson dropped a statement and said she was shocked and angered when she heard OpenAI's ChatGPT voice sounded like her. And OpenAI fired back, and they said, hey, we heard the concerns about Sky. We're going to pause the use of the Sky voice while we address them. And a lot of people were like,
Sky is the best voice. This is seriously the worst decision. Universal Basic Scarlett Johansson. You say Sky's voice isn't her, but a different voice actress. So what are you waiting to address?
Well,
See,
wait.
and this
Am
is
I
the reality,
here?
is that the
Oh,
normies
never mind.
don't care.
I came up
This
here-
is
oh,
what I
yeah.
think a lot
I thought,
of
like,
people
why am I
and
still
like
here in
celebrities
the-
and influencers don't understand in the entertainment
mind.
industry.
I thought I was, like, still in the
is
co-op
that
group. That was
normies
weird.
don't care about somebody else using your voice, because they don't understand the nuances of how is that valuable. And here it even goes farther than that. It's not that they're too stupid to understand it, they just don't care.
Almost one shot the dude. Oh, I got his
dude,
clip.
what the hell? All right, like, if it wasn't even Scarlett Johansson as the
it.
voice actor, and you just used another voice actress that kind of sounds like her, what's the big deal? And in it, OpenAI also says, hey, we believe that AI voices should not deliberately mimic a celebrity's distinctive voice. Sky's voice is not an imitation of Scarlett Johansson, but belongs to a different professional actress using her own natural speaking voice. So they didn't even use, they're saying, like footage of ScarJo in movies. They just used someone who like maybe sounds like her coincidentally. I don't know.
Well,
It's
they
almost-
obviously wanted it to sound like her, but wanting it to sound like her isn't illegal. Yeah, I want to do something that sounds kind of like this. There's nothing wrong with that.
It's surely not coincidental, though. How do I know that? Because Sam Altman, the CEO of OpenAI, tweeted out the day of their announcement of GPT-4o, Her, the title of the movie with Joaquin Phoenix and Scarlett
There it
Johansson,
is.
which is just a huge fumble. Just don't tweet that out. Maybe you get away with this. Maybe a little highway robbery. He fucks up. He tweets out Her. But then Scarlett Johansson also drops a statement where she said she was
I saw
offered
this.
by Sam Altman in September to be the voice for GPT-4o. To be
What does she expect is going to happen? Why would they? This is the thing. Why wouldn't they just use somebody that sounds like you and do it anyway? Of course, that's what's going to happen.
The AI assistant voice, like the movie Her. They clearly watched the movie Her at OpenAI. They're like, hey man, this is fucking perfect. This is exactly what we want. We want to make this come to life. Let's get the girl from the movie.
Right, yeah, of course.
But for personal reasons, she was like, nah, I don't want to do it. Maybe it makes her feel weird. I don't know. I think it's fair. She says no. And then they decided to pursue a voice that sounds eerily similar, to the point where a lot of ScarJo's friends were like, hey, is that you? And she had to be like, no, it's not me. You know, and to be fair, it does kind of sound like her. And then 2 days before they dropped the ChatGPT 4.0 demo, they asked her again before she could reply. They just launched it. They launched the Sky Voice. And the fact that they paused the Sky Voice, to me, makes it feel like, there's probably some internal memos.
Yeah, it does seem like they're probably worried about something, or they're getting rid of it for now so they can be like legally secure, etc. It's fair she said no, but she can't be mad if it's not her and it sounds like it. Yeah, it's like, you think about like, what is the implication of that? You can't have anybody that even sounds like me? What the fuck? What? That's the dumbest fucking thing I've ever heard. That's wild, yeah.
Okay. If we were able to subpoena, I bet we would see a few Slack messages saying, hey, let's get someone who sounds like ScarJo.
Yeah.
And ScarJo, I think we'll find an answer, not only to...
I'm going to be honest. Getting somebody that sounds like you...
Need that.
I don't think that should be
Don't
illegal.
really need this.
I think that is an insane overstep. If it's not you, then it's not you.
Switch places.
They're not marketing it as you. They're not saying it's being voiced by you. That is insane.
Oh, I
like,
need to go
I'm
get
just
the
being
mimic veil.
honest here. I feel like
that yet?
It's not even a question.
Is OpenAI allowed to use a voice that sounds similar to ScarJo? But am I allowed to play a text-to-speech of SpongeBob coming his little damn head off for $10?
Yeah.
That goes to my moderator. So am I allowed to do that?
Obviously
is that allowed?
not. Obviously not. Obviously fucking not. It's not even a question whether it's allowed or not. It's obviously not allowed because the character's introducing himself as SpongeBob. Now, you could probably have a case for it if, like, because at the beginning of this is 8:32.
I'll just play you an example. This is the one that I received the most.
SpongeBob, oh.
See, he says it. It's totally different. It is. It's completely different. Like, I'm sorry. Like, yeah, it's totally different.
Because ScarJo gets answers, baby. She won a lawsuit against Disney, man.
Oh.
That's the millennia of lawsuits. You beat Disney, you can beat anyone. So I think we're going to find out an answer very, very soon.
It's like
There's a
the
lot
millennia.
more lawsuits and a lot more answers and a lot more regulation that need to be figured out with AI. And I'm sure in the next year, we will have maybe just some insight on how far we get. But until then, SpongeBob will be playing on every single one of my piss breaks. It's not my decision. It's my chat decisions. It's how it goes. Thank you very much for watching. Subscribe. All right, see you later. Goodbye. Goodbye. It's my new stream room, by the way. I hope you like it. All right, subscribe. See you later. Goodbye.
How did I not get that yet?
What do y'all think? Because, like, my opinion on this is
part of
that
the quest, right?
I don't think that she has any grounds to tell them that they can't do it just because it sounds like her. I think that's an outrageous overreach. I don't think she owns, like, the idea that there's a voice that sounds like her.
Well, we got the mimic
It's an
veil, that's all we
insane
need.
overreach. It is. But what if it is her? Then she probably does have grounds. I would say, yeah,
I don't
she
need
probably
boiled
does.
crab
They
because
actually
I
need
die
to
in one
prove
hit
that
anyway.
it's not her. No, they don't.
Let's go swap that with the warming stone.
They don't need to
Let's go do that, and then
prove
we'll
that
put
it's
the
not her.
mimic veil of-
She has to
Or
prove
maybe
that it
something
is
else.
her. Yeah, the burden
What
of
else should I have
proof
here?
is on the accuser. It's her likeness, though? Well, let's use the word likeness. You know what else is close to likeness? Is like. It sounds like her. Just because something sounds like her doesn't necessarily mean it's using her likeness. Guilty until proven innocent shatters. Yes, I feel like them removing it, they
That
showed their
costs
hand, they
4,
almost admitted it.
10,
I think they could have, yeah, I think that you're right, by the way. And I think that also, if they had never, if like, I don't know what the fuck, like this is so like, I mean, I feel like a lot of the guys that work at OpenAI and do shit like this, I feel like they've got to be smart dudes, right? I mean, like, they have to be, right? But like, how's he gonna be tweeting this though? This seems
Gravity
like
stone
kind of a
chunks,
fuck
maybe?
up. Well, how do you fucking tweet? This seems like a
Let's get
big
some
fuck
of that.
up.
It could be a
Why
good
would you tweet this?
punish for
Absolutely. Yeah, you're
aggressive.
basically own goaling yourself. Well, maybe he's smart at one thing, just not at Twitter. And so yeah, this definitely didn't do himself any favors. Yeah, if they had never talked to her and never collabed with her and
Look
just
at the
looked for
bear-
somebody that sounded like
Bell
Scarlett
bearing for
Johansson,
this.
then yeah, I feel like they're totally in the clear.
Isolated
but if they did use her
merchants
voice
shack,
and
dragon
everything, then yeah,
barrow.
they probably
Okay.
owe her a bit of money. That's
Let's go do
definitely
that
it.
then.
If they wanted to recreate the AI from the movie, it just so happens that she voiced the character. Yeah, I'm just saying that
Hey,
the law exists. Not
going to sleep?
not far that this is an extension of that. Yeah, we'll see what happens. I mean, I personally don't think it's going to go anywhere, and I also think that it's a really big overreach that she thinks that she can suppress what somebody is talking about or what somebody is saying, or like, you know, somebody else who has a voice that sounds like her. I think that unless they actually used her voice in order to make the character, she doesn't have a case, in my opinion. I think it's completely unfair.
Oh, what am I doing? Oh my god, what am I doing? Come on, come on, come on. Oh my god, what am I doing? Oh my god. Yeah, we gotta get up here. No way, we're gonna... we need the rooftop. This means I cannot get hit at all. There we go. Did it. Should be safe up here, right? Oh my god! Okay. That's what the shield is for. Okay, thank god. You guys still terrifying as shit with my damage. Okay, got that. What should I buy? I have like everything. I also have like 2 million on me. These will come in handy. Oh, I'm getting summoned. Okay. We'll see what's up. Wildcard sounds like a familiar name. Oh my god, the host almost dead. Oh shit. Oh my god, well done. That was nice. That was a good invader. He knew how to lure like them all. Like The other blue and the host is way too aggressive. Never follow the invader. Whoa, I can buy a lot of cracked crystals. Always use more sanctuary stones. Oh, I should be buying smithing stones. Because the DLC's coming up. Man, why did I waste all my money on this shit? I don't even have like, I only have 2 smithing stone 8s. Solve that. I gotta stock up on smithing stones. I should still have volcano pots though. It's because like if I'm like completely out of mana, which and also like these go behind walls too. They're just really good for getting invaders out of areas or just like killing mobs. It's about right. Shiz, maybe that's like too much stuff in my hotbar. What do I like absolutely need? I need crystal darts, I need glintstone scrap. I kind of need like all of this. This is good for chase downs. A lot of this stuff is good. And it's just like a lot of stuff to scroll through. I don't need the mimic tier. Mimic veil. Explosive stone could be good. Like there's some niche scenarios where I've needed like ranged fire damage. Not a whole lot, but sometimes. Okay, well. I don't know what to put in that last slot there. Maybe rainbow stones or something. Maybe soap. Perfumes might be good. Bewitching branch would be really good, but then I'd have to like do Nicholas Lily. It's just too situational. Maybe something will be useful in the DLC. I can always put in like large glintstone scraps or like cuckoo glintstones, but I have to farm these. Not worth using them. I can't just outright buy them. Okay. What time is it? I've been streaming for 3 hours, 40 minutes. I could probably go maybe 1 more hour, maybe half an hour, I don't know. Maybe I should end it here so I can wake up earlier. Yeah, I might just end it here. We got a lot done today. We got a lot of detailing done. Don't want to push it too hard, otherwise I'll get burnt out. Alright, catch you guys later, guys. Take care, everyone. Thanks for tagging along. Shadow of the Erd Tree hype, DLC hype. Bye bye now.